This is 3 hours of information about houses. Not useful information. Not the kind that helps you fix a leaky pipe or understand mortgage rates. Just facts. Odd little corners of building history. Strange measurements. Words that mean things you didn't know they meant. Your brain might try to pay attention. That's fine. Let it, or don't. Either way, here's the first thing. The oldest wooden structure still standing in the world is a Buddhist temple in Japan, built in the year 607. But that's not a house, so we'll start with something smaller. The word window comes from Old Norse vindur auga, literally wind eye, an opening for air, not light. That's what windows were for originally, letting breezes through rather than letting you see outside. The glass came much later. The word itself drifted into English during the Viking settlements, and it stuck because it made sense to people who lived in drafty wooden halls. So a window is really a wind hole, if you think about it. Ceiling shares a root with celare, Latin for to hide. It hides the roof structure above. That's all a ceiling was supposed to do at first, cover up the beams and rafters so the room looked finished. The word entered English through Old French, and before that, people just called it the roof or the overhead. Now it's the thing you stare at when you can't sleep. Wall comes from Latin vallum, which was a defensive rampart, not a room divider. The Romans used vallum to mean an earthen fortification, a barrier against enemies. Over time, the word softened into just meaning any vertical structure that separates spaces. But originally, a wall was something you built to keep people out, not to make rooms. The word floor originally meant just the surface you walk on, not an entire level of a building. That usage appeared in the 1400s. Before that, if you said floor, you meant the ground under your feet, the planks or stones you stood on. Then people started saying the floor above and the floor below, and the meaning expanded. So a floor is both what you walk on and where you are in the building. Mansion comes from Latin mansio, meaning a place to stay overnight, a rest stop on a Roman road. The Romans had these way stations along their highways, and they called them mansiones. Travelers would stop there, sleep, eat, change horses. Over centuries, the word shifted to mean a large, impressive house. So a mansion started as basically a roadside motel. They were practical and functional, not grand. Cottage shares roots with cot, a small shelter, and cotter, a peasant who lived in one. Originally meant a tiny dwelling with land attached. The land was the important part. A cotter was a tenant farmer who lived in a cot and worked a small plot. The word cottage carried that peasant meaning for centuries, so calling something a cottage was not a compliment. It meant you were poor and lived in a tiny house with a bit of dirt. The word porch comes from Latin porticus, meaning a covered walkway supported by columns. The Romans built these everywhere, covered colonnades along the fronts of public buildings. When the word moved into English, it shrank to mean just the covered entrance to a house. But originally, a porch was a long, column-lined walkway, not just a little overhang. Gutter is from Old French gouttière, from goutte, meaning a drop. Water drops run through it. That's all a gutter is, a channel for falling water to go somewhere else. The word has been around since the 1200s, and it originally meant any channel for liquid, drops of water, droplets. The word traces back to Latin gutta, a drop. So the gutter is literally just the place where drops go. Shingle comes from Latin cindula, meaning a split piece of wood, exactly what it was. The earliest shingles were not sawn, they were split. You'd take a log and split it along the grain into thin pieces. The word describes the object perfectly, a split piece of wood that covers a roof or wall. It's been in English since the 1300s, and the manufacturing method changed very little until the 1800s. Mortar, the building material, shares a root with mortar, the bowl. Both come from Latin mortarium, meaning a vessel for pounding. Because the material was pounded together, you'd grind lime and sand in a mortar bowl to make building mortar. same tool, same word. The connection is so old that it's impossible to separate them now. Both words have been in English since before the year 1000. Foundation is from Latin fundare, to lay a base, literally bottom in ancient Rome. The word carries that meaning of bottom, of a base, of something laid down first. In Roman building, a fundamentum was anything you put under a structure to keep it from sinking. That meaning hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. The word stood, as in wall stood, comes from Old English studu, meaning a post or pillar. In early construction, a stud was just any upright timber used to support a wall. The word was in use before the 800s, and it meant the same thing it means now, a vertical piece of wood in a frame. It's unrelated to the modern slang meaning. Lintel is the horizontal beam over a door or window. The word comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold. That's the opposite of what it is. A lintel is at the top of the opening, not the bottom. But in Latin, the word for threshold got shifted to mean the horizontal beam above the threshold. The linguistic drift happened in medieval French and came into English from there. Sill is the bottom part of a window frame. It comes from the Old English sill, which meant a timber or beam laid horizontally. A sill is just a horizontal beam at the bottom of a window. The word has been in use since before English existed as a language, and it originally meant any horizontal support timber. Eave comes from the Old English efes, meaning edge or border. The eaves are the edges of the roof, the part that overhangs the wall. The word means edge, and that's all it means. The eave is the edge of the roof where water drips off. It's been called that since before the year 700. Rafter comes from the Old English rafter, which meant a roof beam. A rafter is a sloped beam that supports the roof. The word is ancient. It's related to the Old Norse raptor and the German raffel. All of them mean some kind of roof beam. And they all go back to a root meaning to weave or to bind, because early roofs were woven with branches and covered with thatch. Stud appears again in building, but this time as the spacing between uprights. A 16-inch on-center stud layout means the centers of the studs are exactly 16 inches apart. That spacing became standard in the 1920s because plywood sheets are 4 feet wide and 16 inches divides evenly into 48 inches. It's a pragmatic choice, not a historical one. Joist comes from the Old French joindre, meaning to join. A joist joins things together. It's a horizontal beam that supports floors and ceilings. The word has been in English since the 1300s, and the meaning hasn't changed. Joists hold up floors. They join the walls together. They're called joists because they join. Brace comes from the Old French brace, meaning arms. A brace is something that holds things steady, like arms holding something in place. In building, a brace is a diagonal piece that keeps a wall from swaying. The word came into English in the 1300s, and it's always meant something that supports or steadies. Flashing is the thin metal used to prevent water from getting into roof joints. The word comes from the Old English flas, meaning a flask or bottle, because the metal was originally formed around lead flasks to keep water out. But the real origin is probably from flash, meaning to pour out quickly, because water flashes off the metal. Fascia is the board that runs along the edge of the roof. It comes from the Latin fascia, meaning a band or strip. That's exactly what it is, a band of wood or metal along the roofline. The word was borrowed directly from Latin in the 1500s, and it's still used in exactly the same sense, a strip at the edge of something. Soffit is the underside of a roof overhang. It comes from the French sous, meaning under, and fait, meaning roof, so under roof. That's literally what it is. The word entered English in the 1600s, and it's been describing the same thing ever since, the hidden underside of the eaves. Truss comes from the Old French trusse, meaning a bundle. A truss is a bundle of beams arranged in triangles to support a roof. The word originally meant any bundle of things tied together, and it still carries that meaning in building. A truss is a bundle of wood or steel, assembled into a rigid framework. Gable is the triangular part of a wall at the end of a pitched roof. The word comes from the Old Norse gafel, meaning the top of a gable or the end of a roof. That's the original meaning, and it hasn't changed. A gable is the triangular peak of a wall under a sloped roof. Cornice is a horizontal decorative molding at the top of a wall. It comes from the Greek koronis, meaning a curved line or crown. The word originally described the crown of a column, then shifted to mean the crown of a building. A cornice is literally the crown of the wall. Threshold comes from the Old English thyrskold, which might mean place of threshing, because grain was threshed on the floor of the house, and the threshold was where the floor met the door. The word has been in use for over 1,000 years, and the meaning has never really changed. It's the piece of wood or stone at the bottom of a doorway. Foyer comes from the French foyer, meaning hearth or fireplace. In French, the foyer is the fireplace room, the heart of the house, where people gathered. When the word came into English in the 1800s, it shifted to mean the entrance hall instead of the fireplace. So the foyer was originally the fire room, not the welcome room. Pantry comes from the Old French paneterie, from pain, meaning bread. The pantry was the place where bread was kept. That's all it was, a bread storage room. The word entered English in the 1200s, and it meant bread room for centuries before expanding to include other food storage. Cellar comes from the Latin cellarium, meaning a storehouse. The cellar is the underground storage room, the storehouse under the house. The word has been in English since the 1200s, and it originally meant any storage room, not just an underground one, but it shifted to mean basement storage by the 1400s. Closet comes from the Old French closet, meaning a small enclosure or private room. A closet was originally any small enclosed space, not necessarily for clothes. The word entered English in the 1300s and meant a private room for reading or prayer. It only came to mean a clothes storage space in the 1800s. Basement comes from the Greek basis, meaning foundation or base. A basement is the base of the house. That's what it literally is. The foundation level, the base on which everything rests. The word entered English in the 1700s, originally meaning the bottom floor of a building, and it's never meant anything else. Mezzanine comes from the Italian mezzanino, meaning a half floor. A mezzanine is a partial floor between main floors. The word comes from mezzo, meaning middle or half. So a mezzanine is a middle floor, not a full floor, just a platform in between. Balcony comes from the Italian balcone, meaning a scaffold or platform. The word entered English in the 1600s, and it meant a platform projecting from a wall. That's what balconies have always been, projecting platforms. The Italian word itself likely comes from a Germanic root meaning beam, because balconies were originally made of beams. A board foot is a unit of lumber equal to 144 cubic inches, but it's not a foot and not really a board. It's a volume measurement, a chunk of wood that's 12 inches by 12 inches by 1 inch thick. The confusing name comes from the sawmill industry, where they needed a way to measure irregular pieces of lumber. A board foot doesn't have to be board-shaped. It could be a thin strip or a thick plank. You calculate board feet by multiplying length times width times thickness, all in inches, then dividing by 144. That number, 144, is just 12 times 12, a square foot in cubic inches. The standard 4x8 sheet of plywood isn't actually 4 by 8 feet. It's slightly smaller to allow for expansion gaps. A typical sheet measures 47.5 inches by 95.5 inches, or sometimes 48 inches by 96 inches exactly, but with a slight under-spec tolerance. That half-inch missing in each direction is intentional. If the sheet were exactly 4 feet by 8 feet, it would be too tight to fit between wall studs that are also 4 feet apart. The gap lets it slide into place and allows for the wood to expand in humidity. A 2x4 hasn't been 2 inches by 4 inches since the 1960s. It's now 1.5 by 3.5 inches. The change happened gradually. Sawmills started planing the lumber to make it smoother and more uniform, and each pass through the planer removed a bit of thickness. By the 1960s, the industry standard had shifted to 1.5 by 3.5 inches. Builders just kept calling it a 2 by 4 out of habit, even though the actual dimensions had shrunk by 1/4 of an inch on each side. The same thing happened with 2 by 6s. They're now 1.5 by 5.5 inches. The brick as a unit of measurement varies by country. A standard US brick is 8 times 3/1 times 2¼ inches, but UK bricks are different. They're typically 215 times 102.5 times 65 millimeters. Bricks in Australia are 230 times 110 times 76 millimeters. Each country's brick has a slightly different size, which means a brick as a measurement is meaningless if you don't specify where it's from. The variation comes from the different clay types, firing temperatures, and historical building traditions in each region. The cubit was an ancient measurement based on forearm length. It was used in building for thousands of years and varied between 17 and 22 inches, depending on the civilization. The Egyptians used a cubit of about 20.6 inches. The Babylonians used one of about 19.8 inches. The Romans used a cubit of about 17.4 inches. A cubit is defined as the distance from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. The variation comes from the size of the person whose arm was used as the standard. Some civilizations had a royal cubit that was standardized by the king's own arm length. The hand is 4 inches. It was originally used to measure horses, but was also used in building to measure certain timber dimensions. 1 hand equals the width of a man's palm, roughly. In construction, the hand was used to measure rough timber. A plank might be described as 2 hands wide, meaning about 8 inches. The measurement is still used in horse height and in some building trades for rough sizing. The rod is 16.5 feet. It was commonly used in surveying land for buildings. It's the length of a standard ox goad. A goad is a stick used to guide oxen, and it was typically about 16.5 feet long. The rod was also called a pole or a perch, all meaning the same thing. There are 4 rods in a chain, and 10 chains in a furlong, and 8 furlongs in a mile. The 16.5-foot measurement stuck because it divided evenly into the acre. The acre was originally defined as the amount of land one oxen team could plow in a day, not a square measurement at all. The acre is the area that a yoke of oxen could plow in one day, which varied depending on the soil and the strength of the oxen. Over time, it was standardized to 43,560 square feet. That's 4,840 square yards, or 160 square rods. The oxen team origin is why an acre doesn't have a fixed shape. It can be any shape as long as it adds up to 43,560 square feet. The pitch of a roof is the ratio of rise to run, expressed as a number like 412. That means the roof rises 4 inches for every 12 inches of horizontal run. The pitch can be as low as 112 for flat roofs and as high as 2412 for steep roofs in snowy regions. The ratio is used to calculate the angle of the roof and how much material is needed to cover it. A 412 pitch is about 18 degrees from horizontal. A square in roofing is 100 square feet, not a square shape, just a measurement of area. Roofers sell shingles by the square, which covers 100 square feet of roof. It's called a square because it's the area of a 10-foot by 10-foot square, but it's not a literal square. A typical house might have 15 squares of roofing, meaning 1,500 square feet of roof area. The term simplifies ordering because it's easier to say, I need 20 squares than I need 2,000 square feet. The mil is 1/1000th of an inch. It's used to measure the thickness of roofing materials, vapor barriers, and plastic sheeting. A standard plastic tarp is about 4 mils thick. A heavy-duty vapor barrier might be 6 to 10 mils. A mil is not a millimeter, that's a different unit. A mil is exactly 0.001 inches, and the name comes from the Latin mille, meaning thousand. R value measures thermal resistance, but the number is only meaningful if you know the units. A use R value of 19 is equivalent to a metric R value of about 3.3. The units are different because the US uses Fahrenheit and inches, while metric uses Celsius and meters. The conversion factor is about 5.6, so a US R value of 30 is about 5.3 in metric. The way you calculate R value is by dividing the thickness of the material by its thermal conductivity. A stud in building can also mean a vertical framing member, but the spacing between studs is called on center. That means the measurement is from the center of one stud to the center of the next. A standard stud spacing is 16 inches on center, which means the centers of the studs are exactly 16 inches apart. The actual gap between the studs is 14.5 inches because a stud is 1.5 inches wide. So 16 minus 1.5 is 14.5 inches of empty space between studs. A course in brickwork is a single horizontal layer of bricks. The height of a course is determined by the brick height plus the mortar joint. A standard US brick is 2.25 inches tall, and a mortar joint is about 0.375 inches, so a course is 2.625 inches. There are about 4.5 courses per foot. Builders calculate the number of courses to determine how tall a wall will be before they start laying bricks. A bag of cement is usually 94 pounds. That's a standard unit in the US construction industry. A 94-pound bag produces about 4.5 cubic feet of concrete when mixed with sand and gravel. The weird weight comes from the volume calculation. 94 pounds is roughly 1 cubic foot of cement powder. So a bag of cement is a cubic foot, more or less, but they sell it by weight. A strike is a measurement for the amount of lime in mortar. One strike is the amount of lime that fits in a small can, about 1.5 gallons. The term comes from the act of striking off the top of the can with a straight edge. Builders still use the term in some regions, even though it's not an official measurement. It's a practical, field-level measurement that's been passed down through generations. Plumb is a vertical line measurement. A plumb line is a weight on a string that uses gravity to find true vertical. The word plumb comes from the Latin plumbum, meaning lead, because the weight was made of lead. A wall that's perfectly vertical is said to be plumb. The term has been used in building for at least 2,000 years, and the tool has barely changed. Level is a horizontal line measurement. A level tool uses a bubble in a tube of liquid to show when something is perfectly horizontal. The word level comes from the Latin libella, meaning a balance or level. A wall that's perfectly horizontal is level. The tool hasn't changed significantly since the Romans used versions of it. Square, in building terms, means a perfect 90-degree angle. A tool called a square is used to check if corners are right angles. The word comes from the Latin quadra, meaning four-cornered. A building that's square has corners that are exactly 90 degrees. If a building is out of square, the walls won't meet properly, and doors won't fit in their frames. A course can also mean a row of shingles. In roofing, a course is a single row of shingles running horizontally across the roof. The word comes from the same root as course in brickwork. A roofer will calculate how many courses are needed to cover a roof by measuring the vertical height and dividing by the shingle exposure. Exposure is a measurement in roofing and siding. It means the amount of the material that's visible on the surface, not covered by the course above. For shingles, the exposure is often 5 to 6 inches. For siding, it might be 4 inches. The exposure determines how many courses you need and affects the overall look of the finished surface. Offset is a measurement for how much one course of shingles or siding is shifted compared to the course below. The offset is usually half the width of the material, creating a staggered pattern that helps shed water. The offset can also refer to the distance between a wall and a pipe or a door and a wall. Stop is a measurement in carpentry. It's the distance a door opens before it hits the stop. A door stop is a piece of wood that stops the door from swinging too far. The measurement for a stop is about 1.5 inches from the frame. If the stop is in the wrong place, the door won't close properly. Plumb bob is the weighted string tool used to find a vertical line. A plumb bob is usually a pointed brass weight about the size of a thumb. The tool has been used for thousands of years, and the basic design hasn't changed. The word bob means a weight, as in a pendulum bob. Line level is a small level that hangs from a string. It's used to check if a line between 2 points is horizontal. A line level is about 4 inches long and has a hook on each end for attaching to a string. The tool is used in surveying and masonry work, where long distances need to be leveled. Batter is a measurement of a wall's slope. A wall with a batter leans inward, getting narrower at the top. The batter is measured in inches per foot of height. A typical retaining wall might have a batter of 1 inch per foot. The word comes from the French battre, meaning to beat or strike, because the wall is struck back. Setback in building measurement refers to the distance from the property line to the house. A setback can be as small as 5 feet in urban areas or as large as 50 feet in suburban neighborhoods. The setback is determined by local zoning laws and affects how much land you can actually build on. Coverage is a measurement of how much area a material covers. A gallon of paint covers about 350 to 400 square feet. A bundle of shingles covers about 33 square feet. Coverage is used to calculate how much material to buy for a job. The coverage number is approximate and varies based on surface conditions. Square foot is the standard building measurement in the US. 1 square foot is 12 inches by 12 inches. A 10-foot by 10-foot room is 100 square feet. Builders and real estate agents use square feet to describe the size of a house. A typical house might be 2,000 square feet, meaning 2,000 of those 12 by 12 inch squares. Linear foot is a measurement of length only, not area. A linear foot is 1 foot of something, measured in a straight line. Lumber, piping, and baseboards are sold by the linear foot. A 10-foot piece of baseboard is 10 linear feet, regardless of its width or thickness. The distinction matters when ordering materials. Cubic foot is a measurement of volume. 1 cubic foot is a cube that's 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. Concrete, gravel, and soil are measured in cubic feet. A cubic foot of concrete weighs about 150 pounds. The measurement is used to determine how much material is needed to fill a space, like a hole for a foundation. Footing is the measurement of the base of a foundation. A footing is usually wider than the wall it supports and is measured in width and depth. A typical footing for a house might be 16 inches wide by 8 inches deep. The measurement is determined by the weight of the building and the soil conditions. If the footing is too narrow, the building could sink into the ground. Stride is a measurement used in old building techniques. 1 stride was considered about 3 feet, the distance of 1 step. Builders would measure distances by walking them and counting their strides. The measurement was imprecise, but it was good enough for rough estimates. Some old building manuals give dimensions in strides, so you have to know the approximate length to convert them to modern units. Yard is a measurement of length equal to 3 feet. The word comes from the Old English gird, meaning a rod or stick. A yard is roughly the distance from the tip of a man's nose to the end of his outstretched arm. The measurement was standardized in England in the 12th century, and it's been used ever since. In building, a yard is used for long measurements like lot lines and distances between structures. Chain is a measurement equal to 66 feet. It was used in surveying and land measurement. A chain is 100 links, with each link being 0.66 feet. The measurement was invented in the 1600s and was used to measure land for building. The word comes from the tool used, a physical chain made of metal links. Surveyors still use the term, though they now measure distances electronically. Degree is a measurement of angle. A full circle is 360 degrees. In building, angles are measured in degrees for roof pitches, wall angles, and stairways. A 45-degree angle is a standard for corners and intersections. The degree measurement has been used since ancient times and is still the standard for architectural and engineering calculations. Radian is another measurement of angle, used in engineering. 1 radian is the angle formed when the arc length equals the radius of the circle. A full circle has 2 pi radians, which is about 6.28. Radians are used in calculations involving circular motion and load distribution. Most building work uses degrees, but engineers use radians for more precise calculations. Slope is a measurement of the steepness of a surface. It's usually expressed as a ratio of rise to run, like 1:4 or 4:12. Slope is used for roofs, ramps, roads, and drainage systems. A slope of 1:4 means the surface rises 1 foot for every 4 feet of horizontal distance. That slope might be too steep for a wheelchair ramp, but fine for a roof. Tolerance is a measurement of how much variation is allowed in a dimension. A tolerance might be plus or minus 1/8 of an inch for a wall stud. Tolerances vary depending on the material and the purpose. A concrete foundation might have a tolerance of 1 inch, while a door frame might have a tolerance of 1/16 of an inch. Tolerances are specified in building codes and construction plans. Clearance is the measurement of the space between 2 objects. A door needs clearance of about 32 inches to meet accessibility standards. A stairway needs clearance of at least 6 feet 8 inches for headroom. Clearance measurements are critical for safety and accessibility. If a clearance is too small, the building won't pass inspection. Span is the distance between 2 supports. A roof truss has a span from one wall to the other. A beam has a span from one column to the next. The span determines how strong the structure needs to be. A longer span requires thicker or stronger materials. The measurement is used in structural engineering to calculate load capacities. Depth is the measurement from the top to the bottom of something. A foundation has a depth below grade. A beam has a depth from its top to its bottom. A shelf has a depth from the wall to the front edge. Depth is used in conjunction with width and height to describe the dimensions of a structure. Height is the measurement from the bottom to the top of something. The height of a building is measured from the ground to the roof. The height of a door is measured from the floor to the top of the frame. Height is one of the 3 primary dimensions used in building, along with width and length. Width is the measurement from one side to the other. The width of a window is measured from the left side of the frame to the right side. The width of a wall is the distance across it. Width is used to describe rooms, openings, and materials. Length is the measurement from one end to the other. The length of a building is the longest dimension. The length of a board is its longest side. Length, width, and height are the 3 dimensions used to describe any object. Center line is a measurement reference line down the middle of something. Builders use center lines to mark the positions of walls, windows, and doors. A center line is used for symmetrical design, making sure everything lines up properly. The measurement is written on construction plans as a dashed line. On center is a measurement from the center of one member to the center of the next. Studs are placed on center at 16 inches. Joists are placed on center at 24 inches. The term simplifies building because you measure from centers, not edges. Clear span is the distance between supports, not including the supports themselves. A clear span of a beam is the distance between the columns. The clear span is used to calculate the load capacity of the structure. It's measured in feet, and it's one of the most important measurements in structural engineering. Bay is a measurement of the space between structural supports. A building might have bays 20 feet apart. Each bay is the space between columns or walls. The term bay comes from the French bay, meaning an opening. Bays are used to organize building plans. Grid is the system of reference lines used to lay out a building. A grid is measured in feet and inches and is used to place every element of the structure. The grid provides the overall organization for the building. It's marked on plans as a series of lines intersecting at right angles. Module is a standard unit of measurement used in building design. The most common module is 4 inches, which is the standard brick dimension. Modules are used to coordinate different materials and construction systems. A module-based design means that all elements fit together neatly without cutting. Story is a measurement of vertical height equal to 1 floor. A story is typically about 10 to 12 feet tall, including the floor and ceiling. The word comes from the Old English store, meaning a history or narrative, because each level of a building was associated with different functions. A building with 2 stories has 2 levels of living space. Headroom is the vertical clearance above a person's head. A stairway needs 6 feet 8 inches of headroom. A doorway needs 6 feet 8 inches of headroom. Headroom is measured from the floor to the lowest point overhead. Riser is the vertical part of a step. The height of a riser is measured from the top of one tread to the top of the next. Building codes limit riser height to 7.75 inches maximum. The riser height determines the overall slope of the stairs. Tread is the horizontal part of a step. The depth of a tread is measured from the front edge to the back edge. Building codes require tread depth of at least 10 inches. The combination of tread depth and riser height determines how comfortable a staircase is to climb. Landing is a flat platform at the top or bottom of a flight of stairs. A landing must be at least as deep as the stair is wide. Landings are measured in square feet to ensure there's enough space to turn safely. A landing provides a resting point and allows for changes in direction. Bullnose is a rounded edge on a stair tread. A bullnose extends beyond the riser below it, creating a finished look. The bullnose measurement is typically about 1 inch of overhang. It's a small detail that makes stairs safer and more comfortable. Stringer is the structural support under the stairs. A stringer is a thick board that runs along the side of the stairs. The stringer measurement is critical because it supports the weight of the stairs and the people climbing them. Baluster is a vertical support for a handrail. A baluster is measured from the tread to the handrail. Building codes require balusters to be spaced no more than 4 inches apart to prevent children from falling through. The measurement is written into building codes and is strictly enforced. Newel is a larger post at the end of a handrail. A newel is measured from the floor to the top of the post. A newel is used to anchor the handrail system. Railing is the horizontal bar at the top of balusters. A railing is measured from the floor to the top of the rail. A standard railing height is 34 to 38 inches. Railing height is regulated by building codes for safety. If a railing is too low, it can be a fall hazard. Fall is the measurement of a slope for drainage. A roof has a fall of 1 inch per foot. A driveway has a fall of 1/4 inch per foot. The fall is calculated to ensure water runs off the surface without pooling. A fall that's too steep can be dangerous, and a fall that's too flat doesn't drain well. Crown is the measurement of the high point of a surface. A floor has a crown if it's higher in the middle than at the edges. A roof has a crown at the peak. Crown measurement is used to ensure surfaces are properly formed. A floor that doesn't have a crown might not drain properly. Wane is the measurement of the amount of bark left on a piece of lumber. Wane is measured in inches from the edge of the board. Lumber with too much wane is lower quality. Wane affects the structural strength of the board because it means there's less solid wood in the dimension. Check is a measurement of cracks in lumber. A check is a crack that runs along the grain of the wood. Checks are measured in length and width. A check that's too large can weaken the lumber. Checks are a natural part of the drying process and are often unavoidable. Bow is a measurement of how much a board curves along its length. A board with a bow is bent from end to end. The bow measurement is the distance from the curve to the straight edge. Boards with too much bow are difficult to use in construction. The material is considered defective if the bow is too large. Crook is a measurement of how much a board curves along its edge. A board with a crook is bent sideways. The crook measurement is the distance from the curve to the straight edge. Crook is similar to bow but in a different direction. Cup is a measurement of how much a board warps across its width. A board with a cup is curved across the face. Cup measurement is the distance from the edge of the board to the center of the cup. Cup is a common problem with wide boards that aren't properly dried. Twist is a measurement of how much a board turns along its length. A board with a twist is spiraled, so the corners are not in the same plane. Twist is measured by how much one corner is raised relative to the others. Twist is one of the most serious defects in lumber and can make the material unusable. Feet and inches are the standard building measurement in the US. A foot is 12 inches, an inch is 1/12 of a foot. Measurements are written as feet and inches, like 8 feet 4, meaning 8 feet and 4 inches. The system is used in building for both plans and construction. Decimal feet are used in some building applications. A measurement of 8.33 feet is 8 feet and 4 inches. Decimal feet are used in surveying and engineering because they're easier for calculations. A decimal foot is divided into hundredths, so 0.33 feet is 4 inches. Conversion is the process of changing from one measurement system to another. A builder might need to convert inches to decimal feet or meters to feet. Conversion factors are memorized for quick calculations. The accuracy of the conversion matters because a mistake can cause a building defect. Standard is a measurement that has been set by an authority. Building standards are set by organizations like the American National Standards Institute. A standard measurement is used across the industry, making it easier for builders, architects, and suppliers to communicate. Tolerance is the range of acceptable variation from a standard measurement. A tolerance might be plus or minus 1/8 of an inch for a dimension. Tolerances are included in building codes to allow for natural variations in materials and construction. Snap line is a reference line used to guide construction. A chalk line is snapped on a surface to create a straight reference. Snap lines are measured from established reference points. The snap line is used to align materials during construction. Level line is a reference line that is perfectly horizontal. A level line is established using a level tool. The level line is used to ensure that walls are built straight and materials are installed correctly. Plumb line is a reference line that is perfectly vertical. A plumb line is established using a plumb bob. The plumb line is used to ensure that walls are straight and true. Grid line is a reference line on construction plans. A grid line is measured from a known point to help locate elements on site. Grid lines are used to coordinate the building layout. Dimension line is a line on a plan that shows a measurement. A dimension line has arrows at the ends and a number in the middle. The dimension line is read to determine the size of a building element. Scale is the relationship between the plan drawing and the actual building. A scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot is common. The scale is used to read measurements from plans. Builders need to know the scale to calculate actual building dimensions. Drawing is the plan that shows building dimensions. A drawing has dimension lines and notes about materials and construction. Drawings are measured using a scale ruler. Sketch is a rough drawing used for planning. A sketch has approximate measurements. The sketch is used to work out ideas before detailed plans are drawn. Sketches are often done without precise measurements. Estimate is a calculation of the amount of material needed. An estimate uses measurements to determine quantities. The estimate is used to order materials and budget for a project. A good estimate prevents running out of materials during construction. Takeoff is the process of measuring quantities from construction plans. A takeoff includes the dimensions of every building element. The takeoff is the basis of the estimate. Builders use takeoffs to know exactly how much material to purchase. Count is a measurement of the number of items. A builder counts the number of windows, doors, or studs needed. The count comes from measurements on the plans. Counts are used to order components like doors and windows. Area is a measurement of two-dimensional space. Area is calculated by multiplying length times width. Area is used for floors, walls, and roofs. A wall area is measured in square feet and is used to estimate paint or wallpaper. Volume is a measurement of three-dimensional space. Volume is calculated by multiplying length times width times height. Volume is used for concrete, gravel, and soil. A concrete volume is measured in cubic yards or cubic feet. Perimeter is a measurement of the distance around a shape. The perimeter of a room is the sum of all the wall lengths. Perimeter is used to estimate baseboard lengths or the amount of material needed for edges. Diagonal is a measurement from one corner to the opposite corner. A building is checked for square by comparing diagonals. If the diagonals are equal, the building is square. Diagonal measurement is a quick way to ensure corners are right angles. Radius is a measurement from the center to the edge of a circle. Radius is used for curved walls and arches. A radius is half the diameter. Radius is used to lay out curved building elements. Diameter is a measurement across a circle. Diameter is twice the radius. Diameter is used for pipes and circular structures. A pipe diameter is the measurement across the opening. Arc is a measurement of a curved line. An arc is part of a circle. Arc measurement is used for arched windows and doors. An arc can be described by its radius and the angle it covers. Chord is a measurement of a straight line across a curve. A chord is a line that connects 2 points on a circle. Chord length is used for layout of curved structures. A chord is shorter than the arc it spans. Angle is a measurement of the space between two intersecting lines. Angles are used for corners, sloped roofs, and structural connections. A 90-degree angle is the most common in building. Angles are measured with a tool called an angle finder. Pitch is a measurement of slope. Pitch is expressed as a ratio of rise to run. Pitch is used for roofs and ramps. A roof pitch of 412 is moderate. Grade is the measurement of slope for the ground. Grade is used for drainage and site development. A grade of 1% means the ground rises 1 foot for every 100 feet of horizontal distance. Grade is measured with a level and a tape measure. The first fired bricks date back to around 7000 BCE in the Indus Valley. They were originally used for drainage, not walls. Early civilizations discovered that clay, when shaped and heated, became hard and waterproof. They used these early bricks to line drainage channels and pits. The bricks were small, about the size of a modern loaf of bread, and were fired in simple kilns. It took several thousand years before anyone thought to use them for building walls, instead of just drainage. Roman concrete was made with volcanic ash and seawater. Some of their structures are still standing after 2,000 years. The Romans discovered that mixing volcanic ash from the town of Pozzuoli with lime created a cement that hardened underwater. They called it opus caementicium. The recipe was lost for centuries after the Roman Empire fell, and it wasn't rediscovered until the 1800s. Roman concrete is actually stronger than modern concrete in some ways because it continues to harden over time. The brick face or brick veneer on a house is not structural. It's just a single layer attached to the frame, often only 3 to 4 inches thick. Behind that brick layer is an air gap of about 1 inch, then the actual wood frame of the house. The brick veneer is held in place with metal ties that are attached to the wood frame. If you knock down the brick wall, the house would still stand. The brick is just decoration, a skin on the outside of the building. Green lumber refers to freshly cut wood that hasn't been dried. It can shrink up to 8% across its width as it dries. Green lumber is easier to cut and work with because the moisture makes it softer, but when it dries, it shrinks, warps, and can crack. Builders have to account for this shrinkage when framing a house. A wall framed with green lumber might shrink by half an inch over the first year, which can cause drywall cracks and sticking doors. Oriented strand board was invented in the 1960s and is now used in 70% of all new homes in North America, more than plywood. OSB is made by pressing together layers of wood strands with adhesive. The strands are oriented in specific directions to give the board strength. It's cheaper than plywood and uses smaller trees, making it more sustainable. Builders prefer it because it's consistent, flat, and doesn't have the voids that plywood can have. The first commercial OSB plant opened in 1968 in Texas. Fiberglass insulation was accidentally discovered in 1932 when a researcher at Owens, Illinois, created a glass wool that could be spun into fibers. The researcher was trying to make a new type of glass and noticed that when he directed a stream of air onto molten glass, it formed fine fibers. He found that these fibers trapped air, making them excellent insulators. By 1938, Owens Corning was selling the first fiberglass insulation. It became the standard for home insulation after World War II. Drywall, or gypsum board, became widespread after World War II. Before that, walls were mostly plaster on wooden lath. Plaster required 3 coats and weeks to dry. Drywall could be installed in a day and painted immediately. The first drywall was invented in 1916, but it was slow to catch on. Builders thought it looked cheap. The housing boom after the war changed that. Drywall was faster and cheaper, and it allowed builders to keep up with demand. Cork flooring was used in the 1920s and is still considered one of the most sustainable building materials. It's harvested without cutting down the tree. Cork is the bark of the cork oak tree. It's stripped from the tree every 9 years, and the tree continues to grow. Cork flooring is naturally warm, quiet underfoot, and resistant to mold. It became popular in the 1920s because it was fashionable and practical. The popularity faded when vinyl flooring became available in the 1950s, but cork is making a comeback. The world's tallest timber building is currently 85.4 meters tall in Norway, completed in 2019. The building is called the Murstårnet and has 18 floors. It's made of cross-laminated timber, which is engineered wood that's strong enough for high-rise construction. The building weighs 40% less than a concrete building of the same size. The wood used in the structure stores about 2,000 tons of carbon dioxide, making it a carbon-negative building. Ply in plywood refers to the number of layers, typically 3, 5, or 7, and each layer's grain runs perpendicular to the one below it for strength. The cross-graining makes plywood strong and resistant to splitting. A sheet of plywood with more plies is stronger and more stable. Construction-grade plywood has 5 plies, while higher-quality cabinet plywood has 7 or more. The adhesive used between the plies is what gives plywood its water resistance. The first concrete used in building was made with lime and volcanic ash, discovered by the Romans around 300 BCE. But the Romans weren't the first to use a cement-like material. The ancient Egyptians used a form of gypsum mortar. The difference is that the Egyptian gypsum mortar was only for indoor use, because it dissolved in water. Roman concrete was waterproof, which allowed them to build harbors, aqueducts, and large buildings. The oldest known wooden structure still standing is the Horyuji Temple in Japan, built in the year 607. But the oldest wooden structure that's actually a house is much younger. The oldest surviving wooden house in North America is the Fairbanks House in Massachusetts, built around 1637. It's still standing and is now a museum. The house was built with hand-hewn oak timbers held together with wooden pegs, not nails. Bamboo is one of the fastest-growing building materials. It can grow up to 35 inches in a single day. Bamboo is actually a grass, not a wood, and it's hollow, which makes it lightweight but strong. Builders in Asia and South America use bamboo for scaffolding, floors, walls, and even entire houses. The tensile strength of bamboo is higher than steel, which is why it's used in earthquake-prone regions. Rammed earth is one of the oldest building materials. It's soil mixed with a small amount of cement, then compacted into forms. The Great Wall of China was built with rammed earth, and the earliest examples date back to 5000 BCE. A rammed earth wall can last for centuries if it's protected from water. The walls are thick and heavy, which makes them good for temperature regulation. They stay cool in summer and warm in winter. The first glass windows were made by the Romans in the 1st century CE, but the glass was so poor that it was almost opaque. Roman glass was cast in flat molds, and it was thick and full of bubbles. People in the Roman Empire could buy glass for windows, but it was expensive. The production process improved slowly over the centuries. It wasn't until the 14th century that glass windows were common in houses, and even then, they were only for the wealthy. Stone has been used as a building material for tens of thousands of years. The oldest stone structure is in Turkey, a temple called Göbekli Tepe, built around 9500 BCE. Stone is incredibly durable, which is why ancient structures are still standing. But stone is heavy and difficult to transport. Builders switched to brick and wood when those materials became cheaper and easier to work with. Stone is now primarily used for foundations and ornamental features. Lime was a key building material for thousands of years. Limestone was heated in a kiln to make quicklime, which was then mixed with water and sand to make mortar. The mortar hardened through a chemical reaction called carbonation, absorbing carbon dioxide from the air. Lime mortar was the standard until the invention of Portland cement in the 1820s. Lime mortar is still used today for historic preservation because it's softer than cement and allows buildings to breathe. Portland cement was invented in 1824 by Joseph Aspdin, a bricklayer from England. He heated limestone and clay in a kiln until they fused together, then ground the result into a powder. The powder reacted with water to form a hard, cement-like mass. Aspdin named it Portland cement because it produced a stone that looked like the Portland stone used in building in London. Portland cement became the standard for concrete and is still the most widely used cement in the world. Concrete is the most widely used building material in the world. More than 10 billion tons of concrete are produced each year. Concrete is made from cement, water, sand, and gravel. It's cheap, strong, and can be formed into any shape. The only problem with concrete is that it's heavy and doesn't handle tension very well. That's why it's often reinforced with steel rebar. Reinforced concrete was invented in the 1840s by Joseph Monnier, a French gardener who was looking for a way to build stronger plant pots. Steel is used in building for structural support and reinforcement. Steel is an alloy of iron and carbon, with small amounts of other elements. The strength of steel comes from the carbon content. Structural steel is used for beams, columns, and trusses. Steel is stronger and more flexible than concrete, which is why it's used in tall buildings and bridges. The first steel skyscraper was built in Chicago in 1885, the Home Insurance Building, which had 10 floors. Glass is used in modern buildings for windows and walls. The first glassmaking was in Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, but glass was primarily used for jewelry and decorative objects. The Romans developed a technique for making window glass by blowing glass into a cylinder, then cutting it and flattening it into a pane. Modern glassmaking has advanced to the point where glass can be made with high strength, low weight, and insulating properties. The largest glass pane in the world is used in a building in Hangzhou, China, and measures over 14 meters tall. Insulation has been used in buildings since ancient times. The Romans used cork, wood shavings, and even hollow clay tiles for insulation. In the Middle Ages, builders used straw, wool, and sawdust. The best insulation before modern materials was air. Any material that trapped air pockets worked as an insulator. That's why straw worked so well. The straw trapped air. Modern insulation materials are designed to trap as much air as possible while being fire-resistant and easy to install. Cellulose insulation is made from recycled paper, usually newsprint or cardboard. The paper is shredded and treated with fire retardants and pest repellents. Cellulose insulation was first used in the 1920s, but didn't become popular until the 1970s, when energy costs increased. It's now one of the most common types of insulation in residential construction. Cellulose insulation is blown into walls using a machine that fluffs it up, filling every gap and void. Mineral wool insulation is made from molten rock or slag that's spun into fibers. The fibers are pressed into bats that are used in walls, ceilings, and floors. Mineral wool was invented in the 1870s in Germany, but it wasn't widely used until the 1930s. The first commercial mineral wool plant in North America opened in 1936. Mineral wool is fire-resistant, moisture-resistant, and has good soundproofing properties. It's more expensive than fiberglass, so it's used in specialty applications. Spray foam insulation was invented in the 1940s by a researcher at a company called the Dow Chemical Company. The material expands and hardens when it's sprayed, filling every gap and forming a continuous seal. Spray foam is the most effective type of insulation for sealing air leaks, but it's also the most expensive. There are two types of spray foam: open cell, which is softer and more flexible, and closed cell, which is harder and more rigid. Closed cell foam is also a vapor barrier. Plaster was the standard wall finish for centuries. Gypsum plaster was used in ancient Egypt and Greece. In medieval Europe, plaster was made from lime, sand, and animal hair. The hair was added to give the plaster strength and prevent cracking. Plaster was applied in 3 coats: a rough coat, a second coat, and a smooth finish coat. The process was labor-intensive and took weeks. Plaster walls are still used today, but they're mostly found in high-end construction and historic preservation. Lath is the backing that holds plaster on a wall. Lath was originally made from split wood, about 1.5 inches wide and 4 feet long. The lath was nailed to the wall studs with a small gap between each piece. The gap allowed the plaster to key in behind the lath, holding it in place. Modern lath is made from metal mesh or expanded metal. Metal lath was introduced in the 1950s and is still used today for stucco and plaster work. Stucco is a type of plaster used on exterior walls. It's made from cement, sand, and water, and it can be applied over metal lath or directly onto masonry. Stucco has been used for thousands of years, and it's especially common in warm, dry climates. The word stucco comes from the Italian stucco, meaning a plaster-like material. Stucco is durable and low maintenance, but it can crack and chip. Modern stucco can be colored or textured to look like stone, brick, or wood. Terracotta is a type of clay that's fired at a lower temperature than stoneware. The word means baked earth in Italian. Terracotta has been used as a building material for thousands of years, especially in the Mediterranean. It's used for roof tiles, floor tiles, and decorative elements. The characteristic red color comes from the iron content in the clay. Terracotta roof tiles are still common in warm climates because they're durable and provide good ventilation. Marble is a metamorphic rock that's been used as a building material since ancient times. The Greeks and Romans used marble for columns, temples, and flooring. Marble is formed from limestone that's been compressed and heated by geological forces. It's harder and more crystalline than limestone, which makes it good for carving. Modern buildings use marble as a decorative stone for flooring and countertops. The most common types of marble come from Italy, Greece, and the US. Granite is an igneous rock used for building foundations, countertops, and monuments. Granite is extremely hard and durable, making it ideal for high-traffic areas. The first granite buildings were built in ancient Egypt, where the stone was quarried by hand. Granite was used for the pyramids and other monumental structures. Modern granite is quarried using diamond-tipped saws and explosives. Granite countertops are expensive because the stone is heavy and difficult to cut. Limestone has been used in building for thousands of years. Limestone is a sedimentary rock that forms from the accumulation of calcium carbonate, often from marine organisms. It's a soft stone that's easy to quarry and shape. Many medieval cathedrals are built with limestone, including the famous cathedrals of England and France. Limestone can be polished to a smooth finish and is often used for flooring and wall cladding. The limestone used in the Great Pyramids of Egypt is still in excellent condition. Sandstone is a type of sedimentary rock formed from sand grains that are cemented together. Sandstone was used in building in ancient Egypt and Greece. It's softer than granite and limestone, which makes it easier to shape and carve. Many public buildings in the U.S. are built with sandstone, including the Pennsylvania state capitol. The sandstone used in the U.S. comes from quarries in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Colorado. Slate is a metamorphic rock used for roofing and flooring. Slate forms from shale that's been compressed and heated by geological forces. It's a dense, durable stone that can be split into thin sheets. Slate roofing has been used for centuries, and some slate roofs in Europe have lasted over 200 years. Slate is also used for flooring because it's hard, water-resistant, and beautiful. The largest slate quarry in the world is in Wales, where the stone has been quarried since the Roman era. Soapstone is a metamorphic rock used in building for countertops and stoves. Soapstone is composed of talc and other minerals, making it soft and smooth to the touch. It's heat-resistant and can be used for fireplace surrounds. Soapstone is quarried in Brazil and India. The stone is soft enough to carve and shape easily. It's a popular choice for kitchen countertops because it's dense and non-porous, so it doesn't absorb stains. Adobe is a building material made from clay, sand, and straw, then dried in the sun. Adobe bricks have been used for thousands of years in regions with dry climates. The word adobe comes from the Spanish adobe, which comes from the Arabic al-tub, meaning brick. Adobe buildings are common in the southwestern U.S., where the dry climate allows the bricks to cure properly. The thick adobe walls provide excellent thermal mass, keeping the interior cool in summer and warm in winter. Cob is a building material made from clay, sand, straw, and water. It's similar to adobe, but uses a different method of construction. Instead of forming bricks, cob is shaped by hand into walls, layer by layer. Cob construction has been used for thousands of years in the UK and other parts of Europe. The walls are thick and organic in shape. Cob buildings are typically curved and have no straight lines, which gives them a unique appearance. Wattle and daub is a building material used in Europe for thousands of years. Wattle is a frame of woven wooden strips, and daub is a mixture of clay, sand, straw, and animal dung. The daub is applied to the wattle frame, and then it's smoothed and allowed to dry. Wattle and daub was common in medieval and Tudor buildings. The technique was replaced by lath and plaster, but it's still used for preservation of historic buildings. Thatch is a roofing material made from dried reeds or straw. Thatch is layered and tied onto a roof frame, creating a water-resistant covering. Thatch has been used in building for thousands of years, and it's still used in many parts of the world. A thatched roof can last up to 60 years if it's well maintained. The first thatching was done with reeds from wetlands or rivers. Modern thatching uses specially grown materials, like water reed or straw. Shingles are a roofing material made from wood, asphalt, slate, or tile. The first shingles were split from logs and were used in ancient Greece and Rome. Shingles are the most common roofing material in the U.S. They're typically made from asphalt and are cheap and easy to install. A shingle roof lasts about 20 to 30 years, depending on the quality of the shingles and the climate. The first asphalt shingles were made in the 1900s. Tile is a roofing material made from clay or concrete. Tile roofs are common in warm climates because they reflect heat and last a long time. A clay tile roof can last 100 years or more. The first tile roofs were made in ancient Greece and Rome, and they used clay tiles that were molded and fired in kilns. The style of tile roof varies by region: flat tiles in the Mediterranean, curved tiles in Asia, and pan tiles in Northern Europe. Copper is a building material used for roofing, flashing, and decorative elements. Copper is durable, corrosion-resistant, and it patinas to a green color over time. The first copper roofs were used in ancient Rome, and some of them are still in good condition after 2,000 years. Copper is expensive and requires skilled workers to install. It's used on high-end buildings and on historic structures that need restoration. The green color is caused by copper carbonate, which forms when the copper reacts with air and water. Zinc is a building material used for roofing and wall cladding. Zinc is similar to copper but less expensive and easier to work with. Zinc has been used in buildings since the 19th century, when it became cheap to produce. Zinc roofs are common in Europe and are known for their durability and low maintenance. The first zinc roof was installed in Paris in the 1840s. Zinc patinas to a gray color and is stable in most climates. Lead is a building material used for roofing and flashing. Lead is soft and easy to work with, and it doesn't corrode in most conditions. The first lead roofs were used in ancient Rome, where lead was used to cover buildings and to line water tanks. Lead is heavy and expensive, and it's now used primarily for historic preservation and for flashing on high-end buildings. Lead is a health hazard, so it has to be handled carefully. The health concerns have led to lead being phased out in modern construction. Timber is wood that's been prepared for building. The timber used in construction comes from softwood trees like pine, fir, and spruce. Timber has been used as a building material for thousands of years. The first timber buildings were simple log cabins. Modern timber framing uses engineered wood products like glulam and cross-laminated timber. Timber is renewable and can be sustainably harvested. The timber industry is one of the oldest in the world. Hardwood is wood from deciduous trees like oak, walnut, and maple. Hardwood is used for flooring, cabinetry, and furniture. Hardwood is more expensive than softwood because it's slower growing and harder to harvest. The first hardwood floors were used in grand buildings in Europe. Modern hardwood flooring comes in strips that are installed over a subfloor. The first hardwood flooring in the US was used in the 1600s. Softwood is wood from coniferous trees like pine, fir, and spruce. Softwood is used for structural framing, sheathing, and roofing. Softwood is less expensive than hardwood because it's faster growing and easier to harvest. Most softwood comes from tree plantations in the US and Canada. The first softwood was harvested in the US in the 1600s, and it's been the primary building material ever since. Engineered wood is a product made from wood fibers, veneers, or strands that are bonded together with adhesives. Engineered wood includes products like plywood, OSB, and glulam. Engineered wood is used for structural framing, sheathing, and roofing. The first engineered wood products were made in the 1940s, and they've become more common as technology has advanced. Engineered wood is stronger and more stable than solid lumber. Cross-laminated timber is a type of engineered wood that's made by gluing layers of lumber together with alternating grain directions. CLT is used as a structural material for tall buildings. The first CLT building was built in Switzerland in 1995. CLT is lightweight and strong, and it's considered a sustainable alternative to concrete and steel. CLT buildings can be prefabricated in a factory and then assembled on site, making them faster to build. Glulam is a type of engineered wood made by gluing together layers of lumber to form a single structural member. Glulam is used for beams, arches, and columns. The first glulam beams were made in Germany in the 1890s. Glulam is stronger and more durable than solid lumber. It's also more consistent because the lamellas are selected for quality. Glulam is used in modern construction for its strength and aesthetic appeal. Plywood is a type of engineered wood made by gluing thin sheets of wood veneer together. The first plywood was made in the 1800s, and it became common in the US in the 1920s. Plywood is used for flooring, roofing, and walls. The main advantage of plywood is that it's stronger than solid wood because the cross-graining reduces splitting. Plywood is also cheaper than solid wood because it uses smaller trees. OSB is a type of engineered wood made by pressing wood strands together with adhesive. OSB was invented in the 1960s and has become one of the most common building materials. OSB is used for sheathing, subflooring, and roofing. It's cheaper than plywood and stronger in some applications. OSB is made from fast-growing trees, making it a more sustainable material. Particle board is a type of engineered wood made from wood particles bonded with adhesive. Particle board is used for cabinets, shelves, and furniture. The first particle board was made in Germany in the 1930s. Particle board is less strong than plywood or OSB, but is cheaper and easier to shape. It's typically used for interior applications where strength is less important than cost. MDF is a type of engineered wood made from wood fibers bonded with adhesive. MDF is used for cabinetry, molding, and furniture. The first MDF was made in the US in the 1970s. MDF is dense and smooth, making it easy to paint and finish. It's not as strong as plywood or OSB, so it's not used for structural applications. MDF is popular for cabinets because it's dimensionally stable and can be made in large sizes. Recycled building materials are materials that have been recovered from demolition or renovation. Recycling building materials reduces waste and saves energy. The most common recycled materials are wood, metal, concrete, and asphalt. The first recycling in construction was done in the Roman era, when stones were reused from previous buildings. Modern building recycling is one of the most important green building practices. The life cycle of building materials includes extraction, processing, transportation, construction, use, and disposal. The life cycle assessment helps builders choose materials with a low environmental impact. The most sustainable building materials are those that are renewable, recyclable, and have a low carbon footprint. The modern building industry is moving toward greater sustainability. The carbon footprint of building materials is the amount of greenhouse gases that are generated during the material's life cycle. The highest carbon emissions in building materials come from cement and steel. Concrete alone accounts for 8% of global carbon emissions. The building industry is working to develop low-carbon materials that reduce the impact of construction on the climate. The earliest known doors were discovered in Switzerland and date back to around 3000 BCE. They were made of solid wood with mortise and tenon joints. These ancient doors were found preserved in the mud of a lake dwelling, their wood still intact after 5,000 years. The mortise and tenon joint is a simple but effective method of joining wood. A projection on one piece fits into a hole in the other. They used stone tools to carve these joints, and the doors were surprisingly sophisticated. The hinge was invented before the door lock. Early doors were held shut with wooden bars that could be lifted from the outside. A simple wooden bar across the inside of the door was the first door lock. You'd slide the bar into a catch on the frame, and the door was locked. But anyone could lift the bar from the outside by sliding a thin blade through the gap. The hinge came first because doors needed to swing open and closed before anyone thought about keeping them shut. The word hinge comes from the Old English henge, meaning to hang, because the door hangs from it. The hinge is the mechanism that supports the door's weight and allows it to pivot. Early hinges were simple pins of wood or metal that fit into sockets. The word hinge has been in use since before the 900s. A hinge does exactly what the word says. It hangs a door so it can swing. A Dutch door is split in two horizontally so the top half can open while the bottom stays closed, originally designed to keep animals out while letting light and air in. The design was common in the Netherlands, where the doors were used in dairy farms and houses. The bottom half kept livestock from wandering inside, while the top half let in fresh air. The Dutch brought the design to the US in the 1600s, and it became popular in early American homes. The first known key-operated lock dates back to ancient Assyria around 600 BCE. It was a wooden pin tumbler lock, about 2 feet long. The lock was massive and crude, made entirely of wood. The key was also made of wood, with pegs that lifted the pins in the lock. The design was the ancestor of modern pin tumbler locks, which are still used today. The Assyrian lock was heavy and difficult to use, but it kept doors secure. The doorknob was not commonly used until the 1800s. Earlier doors had handles, latches, or ring pulls. The ring pull was a simple iron ring attached to the door, which you'd pull to open it. The handle was a horizontal bar that you'd push down to release the latch. The doorknob was a later invention, and it became common after the development of the mortise lock in the early 1800s. The first doorknob patent was filed in the US in 1839. A jamb is the vertical part of a door frame. The word comes from the French jambe, meaning leg. The jamb is the side of the frame that the door is hung on, and it supports the weight of the door. There are two jambs in a door frame, one on each side, and they connect to the head at the top and the sill at the bottom. The word entered English in the 1300s, and it's been used in building ever since. The heaviest residential door in the world is reportedly at a castle in England. It weighs 4 tons and takes 18 people to open. The door is made of solid oak and is about 6 inches thick. It's large enough to fit a horse and carriage through. The door is so heavy that it requires a special mechanism to help it swing. The castle has been maintained for centuries and the door still works. Swing doors that open both ways were invented in the 19th century for use in restaurants and kitchens. They were originally called butterfly doors. The first swing doors used spring-loaded hinges that would return the door to a closed position after it was pushed open. The design was practical for commercial kitchens and saloons, where people were always carrying things. The doors were called butterfly doors because the panels on the door looked like butterfly wings when they swung. A pocket door slides into the wall. The mechanism was first patented in the 1860s, though pocket doors existed in ancient Roman houses. The Romans used pocket doors in their large villas, sliding wooden doors into cavities in the walls. The modern pocket door uses a track system with rollers that allow the door to slide smoothly. The doors save space because they don't need a swing radius. They're common in small bathrooms and closets where a swing door would be in the way. The deadbolt is a lock that's not spring-loaded. It's operated by a key or a turnpiece. The deadbolt was invented in the 17th century in England. The word deadbolt comes from dead, meaning fixed or immovable, and bolt meaning a bar. A deadbolt can't be forced open because the bolt is solid and doesn't move unless the key is turned. Deadbolts are the most secure type of door lock and are required by building codes in many areas. The latches on doors were originally simple hooks that caught on a pin or a loop. The word latch comes from the Old English lecken, meaning to grasp or catch. A latch is a simple device that catches a door and holds it closed. The earliest latches were made of wood, and they were operated by a string that lifted the latch from the outside. The latches became more sophisticated over time, with spring mechanisms that allowed the door to latch automatically. The knob on a door is a round handle that turns to operate the latch. The word knob comes from the Middle English nobbe, meaning a rounded lump. A doorknob is simply a knob that you turn. The first doorknobs were made of brass or bronze, and they were expensive. The brass doorknob was a status symbol in the 19th century. Modern doorknobs are made of various materials, including metal, plastic, and wood. The handle is a horizontal bar used to open a door. The first handles were simple iron bars, and they were used in ancient times. The word handle comes from the Old English handlian, meaning to grasp with the hand. A handle is a grip that you use to pull or push. Handles were common before doorknobs and are still used on many doors, especially heavy ones. The hinge on a door is a device that allows it to swing. The first hinges were made of wood and were used in ancient times. The word hinge comes from the Old English henge, meaning to hang. The hinge is the mechanism that attaches the door to the jamb and allows it to pivot. The simplest hinge is a pin in a socket, and it's been used for thousands of years. Modern hinges have advanced but still work on the same principle. The mortise lock is a type of lock that's fitted into a pocket cut into the door. Mortise comes from the French mortaise, meaning a hole or slot. The mortise lock is the standard lock for wooden doors. The lock is fitted into a rectangular pocket, and the key operates the mechanism inside. The first mortise locks were made of iron and were used in the 18th century. The rim lock is a type of lock that's attached to the surface of the door. The first rim locks were used in the 17th century. The rim lock is mounted on the inside of the door, and the key operates the mechanism from the outside. The rim lock is a simpler design than the mortise lock, and it's less secure. Rim locks are still used on some old doors, but they've been largely replaced by mortise locks. The cylinder lock is a type of lock that uses a cylinder with pins. The first cylinder locks were invented in the 19th century. The cylinder lock is the most common type of lock in the US. The cylinder houses the pins and springs that keep the lock closed. The key lifts the pins to the correct height so that the cylinder can turn. The cylinder lock was invented by Linus Yale in the 1840s. The combination lock is a lock that's opened by a sequence of numbers. The first combination locks were used in ancient times. The combination lock has been used in safes and storage boxes for centuries. The lock uses a set of rotating dials that must be aligned to the correct number sequence. The first combination lock was invented in the 18th century. The electric lock is a lock that's operated by electricity. The first electric locks were invented in the 19th century. The electric lock is used in commercial buildings and hotels. The lock can be opened by a key card, a keypad, or a remote control. The first electric lock was invented in the 1800s for use in jails and prisons. The security door is a door that's designed to be secure. The first security doors were used in ancient times. The security door is made of heavy materials and has strong locks. The door is designed to resist forced entry. The first security doors were used in castles and fortresses. Modern security doors are used in homes and businesses to protect against theft. The storm door is a door that's installed in front of another door for protection against weather. The first storm doors were used in the 19th century. The storm door is made of glass or metal and is used to protect the main door from rain, wind, and snow. The storm door also improves insulation by creating an air pocket between the doors. The screen door is a door made of mesh that's used to let in fresh air while keeping insects out. The first screen doors were used in the 19th century. The screen door is installed on the exterior of the house, and the mesh is usually made of fiberglass or aluminum. The screen door is popular in areas with warm weather because it allows ventilation without letting in pests. The glass door is a door made entirely of glass. The first glass doors were used in the 17th century. The glass door is used in modern homes for patios and entrances. The glass is usually tempered for safety. The first glass doors were only used in grand buildings, but they became common in the 20th century. The sliding glass door is a glass door that slides horizontally on a track. The first sliding glass doors were used in the 20th century. The sliding glass door is used for patios and decks. The door consists of a fixed panel and a sliding panel that runs on a track. The design was popularized in the 1950s and became a standard feature in modern homes. The French door is a door with glass panels that cover the full height of the door. The first French doors were used in the 17th century in France. The French door is actually a pair of doors that open from the center. The doors are typically made of wood with glass panes. The design became popular in the US in the 19th century. The folding door is a door that folds to the side. The first folding doors were used in the 19th century. The folding door consists of panels that are hinged together and slide on a track. The door folds up to save space. The folding door is used in closets and as room dividers. The bifold door is a folding door that has two panels. The first bifold doors were used in the 20th century. The bifold door is used in closets and small spaces. The door consists of two panels that fold together and slide on a track. The bifold door is a common feature in modern homes. The garage door is the large door that covers the entrance to a garage. The first garage doors were used in the 20th century. The garage door is typically operated by an electric opener. The first garage doors were made of wood and were operated manually. The modern garage door is made of steel, wood, or fiberglass, and it's operated by a motor. The roll-up door is a garage door that rolls up into a coil. The first roll-up doors were used in the 20th century. The roll-up door consists of slats that roll up onto a drum above the door. The door is operated by a motor that lifts and lowers the slats. The roll-up door is common in commercial buildings. The sectional door is a garage door that's made of sections that rise vertically. The first sectional doors were used in the 20th century. The sectional door consists of panels that are hinged together and travel on a track. The door is operated by a motor that lifts the panels. The sectional door is the most common type of garage door in the US. The garage door opener is the motor that operates a garage door. The first garage door openers were used in the 1920s. The garage door opener is a motor that's mounted on the ceiling and connected to the door by a chain or belt. The opener can be operated by a remote control or a wall switch. The opener is a standard feature in modern homes. The automatic door is a door that opens automatically when a sensor is triggered. The first automatic doors were used in the 20th century. The automatic door uses a sensor that detects motion or pressure. The door is opened by a motor that operates a mechanism. The first automatic door was invented in the 1960s for use in grocery stores. The revolving door is a door that rotates around a central axis. The first revolving doors were used in the 19th century. The revolving door consists of multiple panels that rotate around a central point. The door is used in commercial buildings to reduce air infiltration. The revolving door was invented by the Scottish engineer William H. Reynolds in 1888. The gate is a hinged barrier at an entrance. The first gates were used in ancient times. The gate is made of wood, metal, or other materials. The gate is used to control access to a property. The first gates were used on farms and in cities. The portcullis is a heavy gate used in fortifications. The first portcullises were used in medieval castles. The portcullis is made of metal and is raised and lowered by a mechanism. The portcullis was used to protect the entrance to a castle. The first portcullises were used in the 12th century. The barrier is a gate or fence used to block access. The first barriers were used in ancient times. The barrier is made of wood, metal, or other materials. The barrier is used to control access to a property. The first barriers were used in military fortifications. The turnstile is a small gate with a rotating mechanism. The first turnstiles were used in the 19th century. The turnstile is used to control access to a building. The turnstile consists of a rotating mechanism that lets one person pass at a time. The first turnstiles were used in subway stations. The doorstop is the device that stops a door from swinging too far. The first doorstops were made of wood and used in the 19th century. The doorstop is a simple device that's placed on the floor or wall to prevent the door from swinging. The doorstop is a practical accessory that's found in every home. The floor stop is a doorstop that's attached to the floor. The first floor stops were used in the 20th century. The floor stop is a small device that's attached to the floor to prevent the door from swinging too far. The floor stop is usually made of metal or rubber. The wall stop is a doorstop that's attached to the wall. The first wall stops were used in the 20th century. The wall stop is a small device that's attached to the wall to prevent the door from hitting the wall. The wall stop is a practical accessory that protects the wall from damage. The chain lock is a security lock that uses a chain. The first chain locks were used in the 20th century. The chain lock is a simple device that's attached to the door and the frame. The chain lock prevents the door from opening fully. The chain lock is a common security feature in hotel rooms. The door viewer is a peephole on a door that lets you see who's outside. The first door viewers were used in the 20th century. The door viewer is a small lens that's installed at eye level. The viewer allows you to see outside without opening the door. The door viewer is a standard feature in apartment buildings and hotels. The first glass windows were developed by the Romans around 100 CE, but they were small, thick, and let in very little light. Roman glass was made by pouring molten glass onto a flat surface and letting it spread out, then cutting it into panes. The resulting glass was uneven, full of bubbles, and almost opaque. A Roman window was more like a translucent panel than a clear view. It let in light, but you couldn't see through it clearly. The frost line is the depth to which the ground freezes. Foundations must be below this line to prevent shifting during freeze-thaw cycles. which can be up to 8 feet deep in some northern regions. When water in the ground freezes, it expands, pushing the soil upward. If a foundation is not deep enough, the frost can lift it, causing cracks and structural damage. Builders must check the local frost line depth before designing a foundation. The frost line is deepest in northern regions like Canada and Alaska. Piles are long columns driven deep into the ground. They're used when the surface soil is too soft to support a building, sometimes reaching depths of over 100 feet. Piles are typically made of steel, concrete, or wood, and they're driven into the ground using a pile driver. The piles transfer the weight of the building to deeper, more stable soil or bedrock. Pile foundations are common in coastal areas and cities built on soft soil. The first piles were used in ancient times to build structures on marshy ground. The footing is the wider base at the bottom of a foundation. It distributes the weight of the building across a larger area of soil. The footing is typically wider than the foundation wall, spreading the load over a larger surface. A typical footing might be 16 inches wide and 8 inches thick, depending on the size of the building. The footing is made of poured concrete and is reinforced with steel rebar. The footing is an essential part of the foundation system. In coastal areas, foundations must be raised on pilings because salt water can corrode concrete and the ground is often marshy. The pilings elevate the house above storm surges and floodwaters. The pilings are typically made of pressure-treated wood or concrete, and they're driven deep into the ground. The space beneath the house allows water to flow through during storms. Coastal foundations are designed to withstand high winds and saltwater exposure. Raft foundations spread the weight of a building over a large area. They're used for heavy buildings on soft soil and can be several feet thick. A raft foundation is a large slab that covers the entire footprint of the building. The slab is thickened at the edges and under load-bearing walls. Raft foundations are common for commercial buildings and for homes built on soft clay soils. The raft distributes the building's weight evenly across the soil. The oldest known foundation in the world is in the ruins of Çatalhöyük in Turkey. Dating back to 7500 BCE, it was made of mud brick. The foundation was simply a layer of mud bricks laid on the ground, with the walls built on top. The mud bricks were made of clay and straw, and they were dried in the sun. The foundation was not deep, but was thick enough to support the mud brick walls. The ruins of Çatalhöyük are still being excavated. Soil testing for foundations started in the 1920s. Before that, builders just dug until they hit solid rock or hard clay. The process was crude and often inaccurate. Modern soil testing involves drilling into the ground and taking samples to analyze their strength and composition. The test results determine the type and depth of the foundation needed. Soil testing is now a standard part of construction. The grade beam is a concrete beam that's poured at ground level to support the foundation. The first grade beams were used in the 20th century. Grade beams are used to support the foundation walls and transfer the load to the piers or piles. Grade beams are a common feature of pier and pile foundations. The crawl space is a shallow space under the house that's not deep enough to stand in. The first crawl spaces were used in the 19th century. Crawl spaces are typically 18 inches to 4 feet deep, and they provide access to plumbing and wiring. Crawl spaces are common in areas where the frost line is shallow. The crawl space ventilation is the ventilation of a crawl space. The first crawl space ventilation was used in the 20th century. Crawl space ventilation is necessary to prevent moisture buildup, which can cause rot and mold. The vents are typically installed in the foundation walls. The crawl space encapsulation is the sealing of a crawl space. The first crawl space encapsulation was used in the 20th century. Encapsulation involves sealing the crawl space with a vapor barrier and insulation. Encapsulation is a more energy-efficient alternative to traditional crawl space ventilation. The basement foundation is a foundation that has a full basement. First basement foundations were used in the 19th century. Basement foundations are common in cold climates where the frost line is deep. The basement provides additional living or storage space. The waterproofing is the process of making a foundation waterproof. The first waterproofing was used in ancient times. Waterproofing includes applying a coating to the foundation walls and installing a drainage system. Waterproofing is essential for preventing water damage to the foundation. The damp-proofing is a less thorough type of waterproofing. The first damp-proofing was used in the 20th century. Damp-proofing involves applying a coating to the foundation walls to prevent moisture from passing through. Damp-proofing is less expensive but less effective than waterproofing. The foundation drain is a drain that's installed around the foundation. The first foundation drains were used in the 19th century. Foundation drains collect water from around the foundation and carry it away. Foundation drains are essential for preventing water damage to the foundation. The French drain is a type of foundation drain. The first French drains were used in the 19th century. A French drain is a trench filled with gravel that collects water from around the foundation. French drains are a common feature in homes with basements. The sump pump is a pump that removes water from the basement. The first sump pumps were used in the 20th century. Sump pumps are installed in a pit in the basement floor. The pump removes water that has collected in the pit. The backfill is the soil that's placed around the foundation. The first backfilling was done in ancient times. Backfill is the soil that's placed around the foundation after the concrete has cured. Backfill must be compacted to prevent settling. The compaction is the process of compressing the soil. The first compaction was done in ancient times. Compaction is the process of compressing the soil to prevent settling. Compaction is an important part of foundation construction. The foundation settlement is the sinking of the foundation. The first foundation settlement was discovered in ancient times. Settlement can be caused by weak soil, poor compaction, or excessive weight. Settlement can cause cracks in the foundation and damage to the building. The foundation crack is a crack in the foundation. The first foundation cracks were discovered in ancient times. Cracks can be caused by settlement, frost heave, or soil pressure. Foundation cracks must be repaired to prevent water damage. The foundation repair is the process of repairing the foundation. The first foundation repairs were done in ancient times. Foundation repair can include patching cracks, injecting epoxy, or installing supports. Foundation repair is a specialized skill. The underpinning is a method of foundation repair. The first underpinning was done in the 19th century. Underpinning involves extending the foundation deeper into the ground. Underpinning is used to stabilize a foundation that is settling. The helical pier is a type of foundation pier. The first helical piers were used in the 20th century. Helical piers are steel shafts with helical blades that are screwed into the ground. Helical piers are used to support foundations in unstable soil. The micropile is a type of foundation pile. The first micropiles were used in the 20th century. Micropiles are small diameter piles that are drilled into the ground. Micropiles are used to support foundations in difficult soil conditions. The foundation insulation is insulation that's installed around the foundation. The first foundation insulation was used in the 20th century. Foundation insulation reduces heat loss and improves energy efficiency. Foundation insulation is required by building codes in cold climates. The foundation waterproofing membrane is a membrane that's applied to the foundation. The first waterproofing membranes were used in the 20th century. The membrane is a sheet of material that prevents water from entering the foundation. The membrane is applied to the exterior of the foundation walls. The foundation coating is a coating that's applied to the foundation. The first foundation coatings were used in the 20th century. The coating is a liquid that's applied to the foundation walls. The coating is less expensive than a membrane but less effective. The foundation drainage board is a board that's installed against the foundation. The first drainage boards were used in the 20th century. The drainage board is a dimpled plastic sheet that channels water down the foundation wall. The drainage board is an important part of the waterproofing system. The foundation gravel is gravel that's placed around the foundation. The first foundation gravel was used in ancient times. Gravel is placed around the foundation to provide drainage. The gravel allows water to flow away from the foundation. The foundation filter fabric is a fabric that's installed around the foundation. The first filter fabrics were used in the 20th century. Filter fabric prevents soil from clogging the drainage system. Filter fabric is an important part of the foundation drainage system. The foundation inspection is the inspection of the foundation. The first foundation inspections were done in the 20th century. The foundation inspector checks the construction and condition of the foundation. The foundation inspection is a standard part of the building process. The foundation design is the design of the foundation. The first foundation designs were done in ancient times. The foundation design is based on the soil conditions and the weight of the building. The foundation design is an important part of the building design. The foundation engineer is an engineer who designs foundations. The first foundation engineers were used in the 20th century. Foundation engineers specialize in the design of foundations. Foundation engineers analyze the soil and design the foundation to withstand the load. The foundation contractor is a contractor who builds foundations. The first foundation contractors were used in the 19th century. Foundation contractors specialize in building foundations. Foundation contractors have the equipment and skills needed to build foundations. The foundation cost is the cost of building a foundation. The first foundation costs were calculated in ancient times. Foundation costs vary depending on the type and size of the foundation. Foundation costs can be a significant part of the building budget. The foundation permit is a permit that's required to build a foundation. The first foundation permits were used in the 20th century. A foundation permit is required by local building codes. The permit ensures that the foundation meets the required standards. The foundation code is a set of building code requirements for foundations. The first foundation codes were used in the 20th century. The foundation code ensures that foundations are safe and durable. The foundation code is an important part of building regulation. The foundation depth is the depth of the foundation. The first foundation depths were determined in ancient times. The foundation depth is determined by the frost line and the soil conditions. The foundation depth is an important part of the foundation design. The foundation width is the width of the foundation. The first foundation widths were determined in ancient times. The foundation width is determined by the weight of the building and the soil conditions. The foundation width is an important part of the foundation design. The foundation thickness is the thickness of the foundation. The first foundation thicknesses were determined in ancient times. The foundation thickness is determined by the weight of the building and the soil conditions. The foundation thickness is an important part of the foundation design. The foundation reinforcement is the steel rebar that's used to reinforce the foundation. The first foundation reinforcement was used in the 19th century. Rebar is placed in the concrete to add strength. Rebar is an essential part of concrete foundations. The foundation rebar is the steel reinforcement that's used in foundations. The first rebar was used in the 19th century. Rebar is a steel rod that's placed in the concrete to strengthen it. Rebar is a common feature of modern concrete construction. The foundation concrete is the concrete that's used in foundations. The first concrete was used in ancient times. Foundation concrete is a mixture of cement, water, and aggregates. Foundation concrete is poured into forms and allowed to cure. The foundation forms are the forms that hold the concrete. The first foundation forms were used in ancient times. Forms are temporary structures that hold the concrete in place. Forms are removed after the concrete has cured. The foundation pour is the pouring of concrete for a foundation. The first foundation pours were done in ancient times. The foundation pour is the process of pouring concrete into the forms. The pour must be done carefully to ensure even coverage. The foundation curing is the process of curing concrete. The first foundation curing was done in ancient times. Curing is the process of keeping the concrete moist while it hardens. Curing is essential for the strength and durability of the concrete. The foundation soil is the soil under the foundation. The first foundation soil was analyzed in ancient times. The foundation soil must be stable and strong enough to support the foundation. The foundation soil is an important part of the foundation design. The foundation rock is the bedrock under the foundation. The first foundation rock was used in ancient times. Bedrock is the solid rock that lies beneath the soil. Foundations can be built on bedrock for maximum stability. The foundation groundwater is the groundwater under the foundation. The first foundation groundwater was discovered in ancient times. Groundwater can cause problems for foundations if it is not controlled. Groundwater is managed with drainage systems and waterproofing. The foundation drainage is the drainage system around the foundation. The first foundation drainage was used in ancient times. Foundation drainage is essential for preventing water damage to the foundation. Foundation drainage includes gutters, downspouts, and French drains. The foundation waterproofing is the waterproofing of the foundation. The first foundation waterproofing was used in ancient times. Foundation waterproofing is essential for preventing water damage to the basement. Foundation waterproofing includes coatings, membranes, and drainage systems. The foundation dampproofing is the dampproofing of the foundation. The first foundation dampproofing was used in the 20th century. Foundation dampproofing is a less expensive alternative to waterproofing. Foundation dampproofing is not as effective as waterproofing. The foundation crack repair is the repair of foundation cracks. The first foundation crack repair was done in ancient times. Foundation crack repair includes patching, injecting, and sealing. Foundation crack repair is essential for preventing water damage. The foundation stabilization is the stabilization of the foundation. The first foundation stabilization was done in ancient times. Foundation stabilization includes underpinning, helical piers, and micropiles. Foundation stabilization is needed when the foundation is settling. The foundation inspection report is a report that's written about the foundation. The first foundation inspection reports were used in the 20th century. The foundation inspection report is an important document for building buyers. The report provides a complete picture of the foundation's condition, from the footings to the floor above. The first paints were made from natural pigments, earth clays, crushed minerals, and plant extracts, mixed with animal fat or egg yolk. The earliest paints were used in cave paintings, but the same techniques were later applied to building surfaces. Red ochre, yellow ochre, and charcoal were common pigments that produced warm, earthy colors. The binders, animal fat or egg yolk, helped the pigment stick to the wall. The paint was applied with brushes made of animal hair or plant fibers. Whitewash, or lime paint, was used for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians used it on their buildings, and it's still used on barns today. Whitewash is made by mixing slaked lime with water and sometimes salt or other additives. The paint is thin and translucent, allowing the texture of the surface to show through. Whitewash brightens surfaces and provides some protection from the elements. It's inexpensive and easy to apply, which is why it's still used in agricultural buildings. The color of a room can affect how warm or cool it feels. Dark colors absorb heat. Light colors reflect it, by up to 20 degrees Fahrenheit difference. A dark blue room will absorb sunlight and feel warmer, while a white room will reflect light and stay cooler. This principle is used in building design to improve energy efficiency. Light-colored exteriors reflect heat, which keeps the building cooler in summer. Dark-colored exteriors absorb heat, which can be beneficial in cold climates. Wallpaper was first used in Europe in the 16th century. It was originally hand-painted and only for the wealthy. The first wallpapers were made by painting designs on large sheets of paper and then pasting them to the wall. The designs were often imitations of more expensive materials, like damask or leather. Wallpaper was a status symbol, and it was used in the finest homes. The production of wallpaper remained a handcraft until the invention of printing techniques. The first machine-made wallpaper was created in 1785 in England by a printer named John Nicholas. Nicholas developed a printing technique that allowed for the mass production of wallpaper. The machine-made wallpaper was cheaper and more widely available than hand-painted wallpaper. The printing technique used blocks or rollers to apply the design. Machine-made wallpaper became popular in the 19th century. Chalk paint is not actually paint. It's a decorative finish that's been used since the 1700s, but the name is modern. Chalk paint is a water-based paint that contains chalk or calcium carbonate. The paint has a matte, velvety finish and is often used on furniture. The term chalk paint is a modern marketing name for a traditional type of paint. Varnishes are made from resins dissolved in oil. The word comes from the Latin vernix, meaning resin. Varnish is a clear, hard coating that's applied to wood surfaces. The varnish protects the wood and provides a glossy finish. The first varnishes were made from tree resins dissolved in oil. Varnish has been used for thousands of years to protect and finish wood. The sheen of a paint, flat, eggshell, satin, semi-gloss, depends on the amount of resin in the paint. More resin equals more shine. Flat paint has very little resin, giving it a matte finish that hides imperfections. High gloss paint has a large amount of resin, giving it a shiny, reflective finish. The sheen also affects durability and cleanability. Lead paint was banned in the US in 1978, but it was still being used in some countries into the 1990s. Lead was added to paint to improve its durability and coverage. Lead paint was common in homes until the 1970s, when its health hazards were recognized. Lead poisoning can cause serious health problems, especially in children. The ban on lead paint was a significant public health achievement. Formaldehyde is used in some paints as a preservative. It off-gases slowly, which is why new paint has a smell for days. Formaldehyde is a volatile organic compound that can cause respiratory problems. Low VOC paints have become more common as a result of health concerns. The first low VOC paints were developed in the 1990s. The paint primer is a coating that's applied before the paint. The first paint primers were used in the 20th century. Primer is a base coat that prepares the surface for painting. Primer improves the adhesion of the paint and helps cover stains. The paint sealer is a coating that's applied after the paint. The first paint sealers were used in the 20th century. Sealer is a clear coating that's applied to protect the paint. Sealer is a common feature in high-traffic areas. The paint stripper is a chemical that's used to remove paint. The first paint strippers were used in the 20th century. Paint stripper is a chemical that dissolves paint. Paint stripper is used to strip old paint from surfaces. The paintbrush is a tool that's used to apply paint. The first paintbrushes were used in ancient times. A paintbrush is a tool with bristles that's used to apply paint. Paintbrushes come in a variety of sizes and shapes. The paint roller is a tool that's used to apply paint. The first paint rollers were used in the 20th century. A paint roller is a tool with a roller cover that's used to apply paint. Paint rollers are faster and more efficient than brushes for large surfaces. The paint sprayer is a tool that's used to apply paint. The first paint sprayers were used in the 20th century. A paint sprayer is a tool that sprays paint onto a surface. Paint sprayers are used for large surfaces and for detailed work. The paint tray is a tray that's used to hold paint. The first paint trays were used in the 20th century. A paint tray is a tray that holds paint for a roller. Paint trays are a common accessory for painting. The paint can is a can that's used to hold paint. The first paint cans were used in the 19th century. A paint can is a metal can that holds paint. Paint cans are available in a variety of sizes. The paint mixer is a tool that's used to mix paint. The first paint mixers were used in the 20th century. A paint mixer is a tool that mixes paint to ensure even color. Paint mixers are used to mix paint before it's applied. The paint store is a store that sells paint. The first paint stores were used in the 20th century. Paint stores sell paint, supplies, and equipment for painting. Paint stores are a common feature in any town. The paint color is the color of paint. The first paint colors were natural pigments. Paint colors are available in a wide range of shades. Paint colors can affect the look and feel of a room. The paint finish is the finish of paint. The first paint finishes were flat or glossy. Paint finishes are available in a range of sheens. The paint finish affects the durability and cleanability of the paint. The paint application is the process of applying paint. The first paint applications were done in ancient times. Paint application includes brushing, rolling, and spraying. Paint application requires skill and care. The paint drying is the process of drying paint. The first paint drying was done in ancient times. Paint drying includes evaporation of solvents and curing. Paint drying can take anywhere from a few minutes to a few days. The paint curing is the process of curing paint. The first paint curing was done in ancient times. Paint curing is the process of hardening of the paint. Paint curing can take a few days or weeks. The paint maintenance is the care of painted surfaces. The first paint maintenance was done in ancient times. Paint maintenance includes cleaning and touch-ups. Paint maintenance is essential for keeping painted surfaces looking good. The paint touch-up is the process of repairing paint. The first paint touch-ups were done in ancient times. Paint touch-up includes applying new paint to damaged areas. Paint touch-up is a common maintenance task. The paint removal is the process of removing paint. The first paint removal was done in ancient times. Paint removal includes scraping, sanding, and chemical stripping. Paint removal is a common home improvement task. The paint disposal is the process of disposing of paint. The first paint disposal was done in ancient times. Paint disposal includes proper handling of waste paint. Paint disposal is regulated by environmental laws. The stain is a coloring agent that's used on wood. The first stains were used in ancient times. Stain is a liquid that penetrates the wood and colors it. Stain is a popular finish for wood surfaces. The wood stain is a stain that's used on wood. The first wood stains were used in ancient times. Wood stain colors the wood, while allowing the grain to show. Wood stain is available in a variety of colors. The gel stain is a thick stain that's used on wood. The first gel stains were used in the 20th century. Gel stain is a thick, gel-like stain that doesn't drip. Gel stain is used on vertical surfaces. The water-based stain is a stain that's made with water. The first water-based stains were used in the 20th century. Water-based stain is a low-odor, environmentally friendly option. Water-based stain is popular for interior projects. The oil-based stain is a stain that's made with oil. The first oil-based stains were used in ancient times. Oil-based stain penetrates deeply and provides rich color. Oil-based stain is popular for exterior projects. The clear finish is a finish that's applied to wood. The first clear finishes were used in ancient times. Clear finish protects the wood while allowing the natural color to show. Clear finish is available in a variety of sheens. The shellac is a clear finish that's made from the lac beetle. The first shellac was used in ancient times. Shellac is a natural resin that's dissolved in alcohol. Shellac is a traditional finish for wood. The lacquer is a clear finish that's made from nitrocellulose. The first lacquers were used in the 20th century. Lacquer is a fast-drying, durable finish. Lacquer is a common finish for furniture. The polyurethane is a clear finish that's used on wood. The first polyurethanes were used in the 20th century. Polyurethane is a durable, water-resistant finish. Polyurethane is a popular finish for floors. The water-based polyurethane is a polyurethane that's made with water. The first water-based polyurethanes were used in the 20th century. Water-based polyurethane is a low-odor, environmentally friendly option. Water-based polyurethane is popular for interior projects. The oil-based polyurethane is a polyurethane that's made with oil. The first oil-based polyurethanes were used in the 20th century. Oil-based polyurethane is a durable, rich finish. Oil-based polyurethane is popular for floors. The epoxy is a clear finish that's used on floors. The first epoxies were used in the 20th century. Epoxy is a durable, chemical-resistant finish. Epoxy is a popular finish for garage floors. The floor wax is a finish that's used on floors. The first floor waxes were used in ancient times. Floor wax is a coating that's applied to the floor to provide a protective layer. Floor wax is a traditional finish for floors. The wall finish is the finish on walls. The first wall finishes were used in ancient times. Wall finishes include paint, wallpaper, and plaster. Wall finishes are an important part of interior design. The plaster finish is a wall finish made of plaster. The first plaster finishes were used in ancient times. Plaster finish is a smooth, durable wall finish. Plaster finish is a traditional wall finish. The joint compound is a compound that's used to finish drywall. The first joint compounds were used in the 20th century. Joint compound is a thick paste that's used to cover the joints in drywall. Joint compound is a common part of drywall installation. The drywall tape is a tape that's used to cover drywall joints. The first drywall tapes were used in the 20th century. Drywall tape is a paper or mesh tape that's used to strengthen drywall joints. Drywall tape is a common part of drywall installation. The texture is a decorative finish for walls and ceilings. The first textures were used in ancient times. Texture is a coating that's applied to create a decorative effect. Texture is available in a variety of styles, including knockdown, orange peel, and popcorn. The knockdown texture is a texture that's applied with a trowel. The first knockdown textures were used in the 20th century. Knockdown texture is a textured finish that's applied to walls and ceilings. Knockdown texture is a common feature in modern homes. The orange peel texture is a texture that's sprayed on. The first orange peel textures were used in the 20th century. Orange peel texture is a textured finish that resembles orange peel. Orange peel texture is a common feature in modern homes. The popcorn texture is a texture that's sprayed on. The first popcorn textures were used in the 20th century. Popcorn texture is a textured finish that has a lumpy appearance. Popcorn texture was common in the 1970s and 1980s. The skim coat is a thin layer of plaster or joint compound that's applied to a wall. The first skim coats were used in ancient times. A skim coat is used to smooth out uneven walls. A skim coat is a common part of wall finishing. The wall repair is the process of repairing walls. The first wall repairs were done in ancient times. Wall repair includes patching holes and cracks in walls. Wall repair is a common home maintenance task. The wall patch is a patch that's used to repair a hole in a wall. The first wall patches were used in the 20th century. A wall patch is a piece of material that's used to cover a hole. A wall patch is a common part of wall repair. The wall filler is a compound that's used to fill holes in walls. The first wall fillers were used in the 20th century. Wall filler is a thick paste that's used to fill holes and cracks. Wall filler is a common part of wall repair. The wall sander is a tool that's used to sand walls. The first wall sanders were used in the 20th century. A wall sander is a tool that's used to smooth walls. Wall sanders are used in preparation for painting. The wall primer is a primer that's used on walls. The first wall primers were used in the 20th century. Wall primer prepares the wall for painting. Wall primer is a common part of wall painting. The wall paint is paint that's used on walls. The first wall paints were used in ancient times. Wall paint is a common wall finish. Wall paint is available in a variety of colors and finishes. The ceiling paint is paint that's used on ceilings. The first ceiling paints were used in ancient times. Ceiling paint is a flat paint that's used on ceilings. Ceiling paint is designed to minimize glare. The trim paint is paint that's used on trim. The first trim paints were used in ancient times. Trim paint is a paint that's used on trim. Trim paint is available in a variety of finishes. The exterior paint is paint that's used on the exterior of a building. The first exterior paints were used in ancient times. Exterior paint is designed to withstand weather. Exterior paint is a common part of home maintenance. The exterior stain is stain that's used on the exterior of a building. The first exterior stains were used in ancient times. Exterior stain protects and colors wood surfaces. Exterior stain is a common part of home maintenance. The deck stain is stain that's used on decks. The first deck stains were used in the 20th century. Deck stain protects and colors the deck. Deck stain is a common part of deck maintenance. The fence stain is stain that's used on fences. The first fence stains were used in the 20th century. Fence stain protects and colors the fence. Fence stain is a common part of fence maintenance. The final coat of paint is the last layer, the one that makes the house feel finished. A color chosen from a tiny chip, now covering an entire wall. The final decision in a long chain of building choices. The first known building trades were the ancient Egyptian stonemasons. They organized into guilds as early as 3000 BCE. These masons were highly skilled workers who carved and placed the massive stone blocks used in pyramids and temples. They worked in teams, with each team responsible for a specific part of the structure. The masons passed their skills down through generations, and their techniques were closely guarded secrets. The Egyptian stonemasons were among the most respected workers in ancient society. Journeyman comes from the French journée, meaning day. A journeyman was paid by the day, not by the job. A journeyman had completed an apprenticeship and was qualified to work in a trade. The term originally meant a worker who traveled from town to town, working for daily wages. The journeyman was a skilled worker who was not yet a master. The system of apprenticeship, journeyman, and master is still used in some trades today. An apprentice was originally someone who was apprehended to learn a trade. The word comes from the Latin apprendere, meaning to take hold of. The apprentice was bound to a master for a period of years, typically 7, to learn the trade. The apprentice received room and board, but little or no pay. The apprentice learned by watching and doing, gradually gaining skills. The system of apprenticeship was the primary way to learn a trade for centuries. Carpenters and masons had separate guilds in medieval Europe, and they sometimes fought over who should build what on a site. The guilds were powerful organizations that controlled the practice of their trade. The carpenters built the wooden structures, while the masons built the stone structures. Conflicts arose over who would build certain parts of a building. The guilds protected their members and regulated the quality of the work. The earliest known building codes appear in the Code of Hammurabi, circa 1754 BCE. If a builder built a house and it collapsed and killed the owner, the builder could be put to death. The code was one of the first sets of laws to regulate building construction. The law was harsh, but it reflected the importance of building safety. The code also regulated the wages of builders and the quality of materials. The Code of Hammurabi is an early example of building regulation. The word architect comes from the Greek archi, meaning chief, and tekton, meaning builder. So an architect is literally the chief builder. The ancient Greek architects were responsible for both designing and supervising the construction of buildings. The architect was the master builder who coordinated the work of the various trades. The role of the architect evolved over time, becoming more specialized. The modern architect is primarily a designer, not a builder. The foreman was originally the foremost man on a job. He was the one who stood at the front and directed the other workers. The foreman was the supervisor on a construction site. The foreman was responsible for the quality and safety of the work. The foreman was the link between the workers and the management. The foreman is still an important part of any construction crew. Building trades in the U.S. became unionized in the 1880s. The first Building Trades Council was formed in 1887. The unions fought for better wages, working conditions, and safety standards. The building trades unions were among the most powerful labor unions in the U.S. The unions also established apprenticeship programs to train new workers. The building trades unions were a significant force in American politics. A master builder was someone who had completed their apprenticeship and journeyman years. They could build any part of a structure, from foundation to roof. The master builder was a highly skilled and respected worker. The master builder was responsible for the entire construction project. The title was earned after years of training and experience. The master builder was the equivalent of a modern architect and contractor combined. Scaffolding has been used since ancient times. The word comes from the Latin scapholdum, which referred to a temporary platform. The earliest scaffolding was made of wood, with poles lashed together with rope. Scaffolding was used in the construction of the Egyptian pyramids and Roman aqueducts. The scaffold provided a safe working platform for builders. Scaffolding is still an essential part of construction. The bricklayer is a tradesperson who lays bricks. The first bricklayers were used in ancient times. A bricklayer is a skilled worker who builds walls and structures with bricks. The bricklayer must be precise and careful in the placement of each brick. The bricklayer is one of the oldest building trades. The carpenter is a tradesperson who works with wood. The first carpenters were used in ancient times. A carpenter builds and repairs wooden structures. The carpenter is a skilled worker who uses a variety of tools. The carpenter is one of the most common building trades. The electrician is a tradesperson who works with electricity. The first electricians were used in the 19th century. An electrician installs and repairs electrical systems. The electrician is a skilled worker who must be licensed. The electrician is an essential part of any modern construction crew. The plumber is a tradesperson who works with pipes. The first plumbers were used in ancient times. A plumber installs and repairs plumbing systems. The plumber is a skilled worker who must be licensed. The plumber is an essential part of any modern construction crew. The HVAC technician is a tradesperson who works with heating and cooling systems. The first HVAC technicians were used in the 20th century. An HVAC technician installs and repairs heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. The HVAC technician is a skilled worker who must be licensed. The HVAC technician is an essential part of any modern construction crew. The roofer is a tradesperson who works on roofs. The first roofers were used in ancient times. A roofer installs and repairs roofs. The roofer is a skilled worker who must work safely at heights. The roofer is an essential part of any construction crew. The drywaller is a tradesperson who installs drywall. The first drywallers were used in the 20th century. A drywaller installs and finishes drywall. The drywaller is a skilled worker who must be precise. The drywaller is an essential part of any construction crew. The painter is a tradesperson who applies paint. The first painters were used in ancient times. A painter applies paint, stain, or other finishes to surfaces. The painter is a skilled worker who must be careful. The painter is an essential part of any construction crew. The glazier is a tradesperson who works with glass. The first glaziers were used in ancient times. A glazier cuts, installs, and repairs glass. The glazier is a skilled worker who must be careful. The glazier is an essential part of any construction crew. The mason is a tradesperson who works with stone. The first masons were used in ancient times. A mason builds structures with stone, brick, or concrete. The mason is a skilled worker who must be precise. The mason is one of the oldest building trades. The tile setter is a tradesperson who installs tile. The first tile setters were used in ancient times. A tile setter installs ceramic, stone, or glass tile. The tile setter is a skilled worker who must be precise. The tile setter is an essential part of any construction crew. The flooring installer is a tradesperson who installs flooring. The first flooring installers were used in ancient times. A flooring installer installs hardwood, carpet, or tile floors. The flooring installer is a skilled worker who must be precise. The flooring installer is an essential part of any construction crew. The cabinet maker is a tradesperson who builds cabinets. The first cabinet makers were used in the 17th century. A cabinet maker builds custom cabinets and furniture. The cabinet maker is a skilled worker who must be precise. The cabinet maker is an essential part of any construction crew. The mill worker is a tradesperson who works with millwork. The first mill workers were used in the 19th century. A mill worker builds and installs millwork, such as doors, windows, and trim. The mill worker is a skilled worker who must be precise. The mill worker is an essential part of any construction crew. The sheet metal worker is a tradesperson who works with sheet metal. The first sheet metal workers were used in the 19th century. A sheet metal worker fabricates and installs sheet metal products. The sheet metal worker is a skilled worker who must be precise. The sheet metal worker is an essential part of any construction crew. The welder is a tradesperson who joins metal. The first welders were used in the 19th century. A welder joins metal by melting and fusing it. The welder is a skilled worker who must be careful. The welder is an essential part of any construction crew. The concrete finisher is a tradesperson who finishes concrete. The first concrete finishers were used in the 19th century. A concrete finisher smooths and finishes concrete surfaces. The concrete finisher is a skilled worker who must be precise. The concrete finisher is an essential part of any construction crew. The general contractor is the person who manages the construction of a building. The first general contractors were used in the 19th century. A general contractor hires and supervises the subcontractors. The general contractor is responsible for the quality and safety of the work. The general contractor is the point of contact for the owner. The subcontractor is a contractor who performs a specific part of the work. The first subcontractors were used in the 19th century. A subcontractor specializes in a particular trade, such as plumbing or electrical. The subcontractor works for the general contractor. The subcontractor is an essential part of the construction process. The construction worker is a person who works on a construction site. The first construction workers were used in ancient times. A construction worker performs various tasks on the construction site. The construction worker is a skilled laborer. The construction worker is an essential part of the construction process. The safety manager is the person responsible for safety on a construction site. The first safety managers were used in the 20th century. A safety manager ensures that the construction site is safe for workers. The safety manager is responsible for preventing accidents. The safety manager is an essential part of any construction crew. The project manager is the person who manages a construction project. The first project managers were used in the 20th century. A project manager oversees the construction project from start to finish. The project manager is responsible for the budget and the schedule. The project manager is an essential part of the construction process. The building inspector is the person who inspects buildings to ensure they meet codes. The first building inspectors were used in the 20th century. A building inspector checks the construction of a building to ensure it meets building codes. The building inspector is a public official. The building inspector is an essential part of the construction process. The construction manager is a person who manages construction projects. The first construction managers were used in the 20th century. A construction manager is a professional who oversees the construction process. The construction manager is responsible for the project from start to finish. The construction manager is an essential part of the construction process. The laborer is an unskilled worker on a construction site. The first laborers were used in ancient times. A laborer performs manual tasks on the construction site. The laborer is an essential part of the construction crew. The laborer is often the first to arrive and the last to leave. The tool is an instrument that's used to perform a task. The first tools were used by early humans. A tool is any instrument that's used to perform a task. Tools are essential for construction work. The tool is an extension of the worker's hand. The construction safety is the practice of staying safe on construction sites. The first construction safety standards were used in the 20th century. Construction safety includes wearing personal protective equipment and following safe practices. Construction safety is essential for preventing injuries. Construction safety is an important part of any construction project. The personal protective equipment is equipment that's worn to protect the worker. The first personal protective equipment was used in the 20th century. Personal protective equipment includes hard hats, safety glasses, and gloves. Personal protective equipment is essential for construction safety. The hard hat is a helmet that's worn on construction sites. The first hard hats were used in the 20th century. A hard hat protects the head from falling objects. The hard hat is a common feature on construction sites. The safety glasses are glasses that are worn to protect the eyes. The first safety glasses were used in the 20th century. Safety glasses protect the eyes from debris and dust. Safety glasses are a common feature on construction sites. The work boot is a boot that's worn on construction sites. The first work boots were used in the 19th century. Work boots protect the feet from sharp objects and heavy loads. Work boots are a common feature on construction sites. The high-visibility vest is a vest that's worn to make the worker visible. The first high-visibility vests were used in the 20th century. A high-visibility vest makes the worker visible to others. A high-visibility vest is a common feature on construction sites. The construction equipment is the equipment that's used in construction. The first construction equipment was used in ancient times. Construction equipment includes excavators, bulldozers, and cranes. Construction equipment is essential for modern construction. The crane is a machine that's used to lift and move heavy objects. The first cranes were used in ancient times. A crane is a machine with a boom and a hoist. Cranes are essential for lifting heavy materials. The crane is an essential part of construction. The excavator is a machine that's used to dig holes. The first excavators were used in the 19th century. An excavator is a machine with a bucket and a boom. Excavators are essential for site preparation. The excavator is an essential part of construction. The bulldozer is a machine that's used to push earth. The first bulldozers were used in the 20th century. A bulldozer is a machine with a blade and a tracked undercarriage. Bulldozers are essential for site preparation. The bulldozer is an essential part of construction. The backhoe is a machine that's used to dig and load. The first backhoes were used in the 20th century. A backhoe is a machine with a bucket and a backhoe. Backhoes are essential for site preparation. The backhoe is an essential part of construction. The construction site is the place where construction takes place. The first construction sites were used in ancient times. A construction site is a place where a building is being built. Construction sites are busy and dangerous places. The construction site is the world of the builder. The construction schedule is a schedule that shows the timeline of a construction project. The first construction schedules were used in the 20th century. A construction schedule is a plan that shows the order of the work. The construction schedule is an important part of project management. The construction budget is the budget for a construction project. The first construction budgets were used in the 20th century. A construction budget is a plan that shows the cost of the project. The construction budget is an important part of project management. The construction crew is the team of workers on a construction site. The first construction crews were used in ancient times. A construction crew is the team of workers who build the structure. The construction crew is an essential part of any construction project. The construction training is the training that workers receive. The first construction training was done in ancient times. Construction training includes apprenticeship and continuing education. Construction training is essential for safe and quality construction. The construction career is a career in the building trades. The first construction careers were begun in ancient times. A construction career is a career in the construction industry. Construction careers can be rewarding and well-paying. The construction industry is a major employer. The construction industry is the industry that builds structures. The first construction industry was created in ancient times. The construction industry includes contractors, architects, and engineers. The construction industry is an important part of the economy. The construction industry continues to evolve with new techniques and technologies. Every builder who picks up a tool joins a lineage that stretches back thousands of years, a line of people who have shaped the world around them, one wall at a time. In Japan, many houses are built with a wooden frame and paper walls, shoji screens, that allow light through while maintaining privacy. The shoji screen is made of a wooden lattice covered with translucent paper, typically made from the inner bark of the mulberry tree. The paper is called washi, and it's strong enough to withstand daily use while diffusing light softly throughout the room. The screens slide on wooden tracks and can be opened or closed to change the configuration of a room. This design evolved over centuries in response to Japan's humid climate and the need for flexible living spaces. In Sweden, many houses are painted a deep red called Falu red. The pigment was originally a byproduct of copper mining. The color comes from the Falun copper mine, which operated for over 1,000 years. The red pigment was made from the waste material from the mining process, mixed with linseed oil and water. The paint was cheap and durable, making it popular among farmers and cottagers. Today, Falu red is a symbol of Swedish identity and is protected by law in some areas. In the UK, many older houses have thatched roofs. The thatch can last up to 60 years if maintained well. Thatching is the craft of building a roof with dry vegetation such as straw, waterweed, or sedge. The thatch is layered and compressed to create a waterproof covering. The material is renewable and provides excellent insulation. Thatched roofs are a traditional feature of English cottages and are still being built today. In Norway, sod roofs are still used on some houses. The grass provides insulation and helps the house blend into the landscape. A sod roof is a layer of soil planted with grass or other vegetation. The soil is laid over a waterproof membrane on the roof deck. The grass roots stabilize the soil and create a living roof. Sod roofs have been used in Norway for centuries and are a common feature of traditional architecture. In the Netherlands, canal houses are tall and narrow because historically, property tax was based on the width of the house, not the height. The houses were built along the canals, and the narrow fronts maximized the number of houses that could fit along the water. The houses are typically 4 to 6 meters wide and 5 to 6 stories tall. The narrow design required innovative structural solutions, such as internal staircases that are steep and narrow. Many canal houses are still standing and are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In Italy, many houses have courtyards in the center, because the houses were built around an open space for light and ventilation. The courtyard, or cortile, is a central open space that provides light and air to the surrounding rooms. The courtyard also serves as a gathering space for the family. The design is common in Mediterranean architecture, where the hot climate makes ventilation essential. The courtyard is a defining feature of Italian and Spanish houses. In China, Siheyuan houses are square compounds with a courtyard in the center. The design dates back 2,000 years. The Siheyuan is a traditional Chinese courtyard house that consists of a square or rectangular courtyard surrounded by buildings on all 4 sides. The buildings are connected by covered walkways. The courtyard is the center of family life. The design is based on the principles of harmony and balance. In India, Haveli mansions are decorated with intricate carvings and mirrorwork. They're often several stories tall with large courtyards. The Haveli is a traditional townhouse or mansion in India and Pakistan. The Haveli is known for its ornate architecture, including intricate carvings, frescoes, and mirrorwork. The Haveli was typically the residence of a wealthy family. The Haveli is a testament to the skill of Indian craftsmen. In Russia, traditional houses were built of logs. The izba is a simple log cabin with a steep roof to shed heavy snow. The izba is a traditional Russian peasant house that was built of horizontal logs notched together at the corners. The design is simple and practical, using readily available materials. The steep roof prevents snow from accumulating. The izba was the most common type of dwelling in rural Russia for centuries. In Greece, many houses are whitewashed with blue shutters. The white reflects the heat, and the blue is said to repel insects. The whitewash is a mixture of lime and water that brightens the house and reflects sunlight. The blue shutters and doors are a characteristic feature of Greek island architecture. The blue color is traditionally made from a natural pigment. The white and blue houses of Greece are a famous symbol of the country. In the Alps, houses are built with steep roofs and heavy stone bases. The steep roof sheds snow, and the stone base provides stability. The houses are designed to withstand heavy snowfall and strong winds. The roofs are often covered with wooden shingles or stone slabs. The stone base provides a solid foundation on the steep slopes. The design is practical and has been used for centuries. In the United Kingdom, terraced houses are row houses that share walls. They were built during the Industrial Revolution to house the growing urban population. The terraced house is a row of identical or similar houses that share side walls. The design saves space and reduces construction costs. The terraced house was a common form of housing for working-class families. Terraced houses are still a common feature of UK cities. In the Republic of Ireland, cottages have low, thick walls and small windows. The design keeps the house warm in the damp Irish climate. The thick walls are made of stone or brick and provide insulation. The small windows reduce heat loss. The low ceilings keep the living space warm. The Irish cottage is a simple, practical dwelling. In Portugal, houses are often painted in bright colors. Yellow, blue, and pink are common. The bright colors reflect the sun and add cheerfulness to the streets. The paint is a tradition that dates back centuries. The colors are often chosen to match the region or the owner's preferences. The colorful houses are a famous feature of Portuguese towns. In Germany, Fachwerkhaus houses have exposed timber frames. The spaces between the timbers are filled with wattle and daub or brick. The Fachwerkhaus is a traditional half-timbered house. The timber frame is visible on the exterior and forms a geometric pattern. The wattle and daub filling is made of woven branches and clay. The half-timbered house is a common feature of German towns. In France, mas farmhouses are built of local stone with large roofs. The design is practical for the rural landscape. The mas is a traditional Provençal farmhouse. The house is built of local stone that was quarried nearby. The large roof provides shade and protection from the sun. The mas is a typical feature of the French countryside. In Switzerland, houses have deep overhanging eaves and wide roofs. The design protects the house from heavy snowfall. The deep eaves keep the snow away from the walls. The wide roof sheds snow easily. The design is practical for the alpine climate. The Swiss house is a typical feature of the alpine landscape. In Austria, houses are decorated with painted facades. The paintings are often religious or folk motifs. The painted facade is a tradition that dates back centuries. The paintings are applied to the plaster with natural pigments. The motifs often tell a story or depict scenes from daily life. The painted facade is a characteristic feature of Austrian villages. In Hungary, traditional houses have long, narrow floor plans with a covered porch. The porch provides shade and a workspace. The narrow design makes the house easy to heat. The covered porch protects the entrance from the sun and rain. The porch is a central feature of the Hungarian house. In Spain, cortijo farmhouses are built around a central courtyard. The courtyard provides light and ventilation. The cortijo is a traditional farmhouse in Andalusia. The courtyard is the center of family life and work. The design is practical for the hot climate. The cortijo is a common feature of the Spanish countryside. In the Balkans, houses have čardak porches with wooden balustrades. The porch is a semi-open space for sitting and sleeping. The čardak is a covered porch that extends from the house. The porch is often raised on stilts for ventilation. The čardak is a common feature of traditional houses in the Balkans. In the Faroe Islands, houses have grass-covered roofs and stone walls. The grass provides insulation and helps anchor the roof. The grass roof is a traditional feature of Faroese architecture. The stone walls are built of local stone that was quarried nearby. The design is practical for the harsh climate. The grass-roofed house is a characteristic feature of the Faroe Islands. In Turkey, yali mansions are built along the Bosporus. They have large windows and elaborate wooden facades. The yali is a traditional Ottoman house that was built on the waterfront. The large windows offer views of the water. The wooden facades are decorated with intricate carvings. The yali is a symbol of wealth and status. In Israel, houses are built with flat roofs and thick walls. The flat roof provides outdoor living space, and the thick walls insulate against the heat. The flat roof is a common feature of Mediterranean architecture. The thick walls are made of stone or concrete and keep the interior cool. The design is practical for the hot climate. The flat-roofed house is a common feature of Israeli architecture. In Iran, badgers or wind catchers are built on houses to capture breezes and cool the interior. The badger is a tower on the roof that catches the wind and directs it down into the house. The wind cooling system is a traditional feature of Persian architecture. The badger is a clever design that uses natural ventilation. In Georgia, houses have wooden balconies with carved columns. The balconies are used for drying fruit and gathering. The wooden balcony is a traditional feature of Georgian architecture. The columns are carved with ornate designs. The balcony is a central feature of the Georgian house. In Armenia, houses are built of stone with decorative carvings over the doors and windows. The stone is from local quarries and is carved by hand. The carvings often depict symbols or flowers. The decorative carvings are a characteristic feature of Armenian architecture. In Uzbekistan, mahalla neighborhoods are composed of houses with courtyards. The courtyard is a private space for the family. The mahalla is a traditional neighborhood in Uzbekistan. The houses are built around a courtyard that is enclosed by walls. The courtyard is a space for family gatherings. The mahalla is a central feature of Uzbek culture. In Mongolia, ger yurts are traditional dwellings made of felt on a wooden frame. The yurt is portable and can be moved with the seasons. The ger is a circular, tent-like dwelling that is covered with felt. The felt is made from wool and provides insulation. The yurt is a practical design for the nomadic lifestyle. The yurt is a symbol of Mongolian culture. In Nepal, houses are built of stone and mud with steep roofs. The steep roof sheds snow and rain. The stone and mud construction is traditional in the Himalayas. The steep roof prevents water from pooling on the roof. The design is practical for the mountainous terrain. In Bhutan, houses have brightly painted facades with intricate woodwork. The colors and designs are symbols of religious and cultural significance. The woodwork is often carved with traditional motifs. The painting is a tradition that dates back centuries. The bright colors are a characteristic feature of Bhutanese architecture. In Thailand, spirit houses are built on the grounds of houses to protect the family. The spirit houses are small miniature shrines. The spirit house is a common feature of Thai households. The spirit house is a small structure that's placed in the yard. The spirit house is a tradition that is still practiced today. In Vietnam, houses are built with a front room for public functions and a back room for private family life. The front room is typically the largest room in the house. The back room is smaller and more private. The design reflects the importance of the family in Vietnamese culture. In the Philippines, Bahay Kubo, houses are built of bamboo with a thatched roof. The design is light and airy for the tropical climate. The Bahay Kubo is a traditional Filipino house. The bamboo is lightweight and strong. The thatched roof provides shade and insulation. The Bahay Kubo is a practical design for the hot climate. In Indonesia, rumah panggung houses are built on stilts. The stilts elevate the house above the ground for ventilation and flood protection. The rumah panggung is a traditional Indonesian house. The stilts keep the house cool and dry. The space under the house can be used for storage. The rumah panggung is a common design in Southeast Asia. In Korea, hanok houses have underfloor heating called ondol. The ondol is a floor heating system that uses hot smoke from a fire. The ondol is a traditional Korean heating system. The floor is heated by hot smoke that travels through flues under the floor. The ondol is a comfortable and efficient heating system. The hanok is a traditional Korean house. In Taiwan, houses have matsu shrines on the roof. The shrines are for the sea goddess Matsu. The shrines are a common feature of Taiwanese houses. The shrines are believed to protect the household. The design reflects the importance of matsu in Taiwanese culture. In Tibet, houses are built of stone and adobe with flat roofs. The flat roof is used for drying crops. The stone and adobe construction is traditional in the Himalayas. The flat roof is a practical design for the high-altitude climate. The house is a central feature of the Tibetan village. The final house in this global tour is the one you've been picturing, a structure shaped by climate, culture, and the materials at hand, a universal idea that takes a different form in every corner of the world. In the southwestern U.S., Pueblo houses are made of adobe, sun-dried mud. They have thick walls that keep interiors cool in summer and warm in winter. The adobe is made from clay, sand, water, and straw, which is mixed and formed into bricks that are dried in the sun. The thick walls provide thermal mass, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it at night. Pueblo houses have been built in the region for over 1,000 years. The design is a testament to the ingenuity of the indigenous peoples. In Central America, houses often have thatched roofs and walls made of bahareke, wattle and daub, a technique used for centuries. Bahareke is made by weaving a lattice of wooden strips and covering it with a mixture of mud, clay, and sometimes animal dung. The technique is practical and uses locally available materials. The thatched roof is made from palm fronds or other local vegetation. Bahareke is a common building method in rural areas. In Brazil, favela houses are often built from recycled materials, and they're packed closely together on hillsides. The favelas are informal settlements that have grown around Brazilian cities. The houses are built from whatever materials are available, including wood, metal, and concrete blocks. The houses are often multiple stories tall and are built on steep slopes. The favelas are a testament to the resilience of their inhabitants. In Mali, the Dogon people build houses of sun-dried mud, with flat roofs used for storing grain. The Dogon houses are clustered in villages on the Bandiagara escarpment. The houses are built of mud brick and have flat roofs that are used as terraces. The grain is stored in granaries that are built on the roofs. The Dogon architecture is a remarkable example of sustainable building in a harsh environment. In South Africa, rondavel houses are circular, with conical thatched roofs and walls made of stone or mud. The rondavel is a traditional African dwelling that has been built for centuries. The circular shape is practical and symbolic. The walls are made of stone or mud, and the roof is thatched with grass. The rondavel is a common feature of rural South Africa. In Egypt, traditional houses were built of mud brick. The technique is over 5,000 years old and is still used in rural areas. The mud bricks are made from Nile silt, which is mixed with straw and dried in the sun. The bricks are laid in courses and covered with a mud plaster. The houses are designed to stay cool in the hot climate. The mud brick house is a living tradition in Egypt. In Kenya, Manyatta houses are built by the Maasai. They're circular with mud walls and low roofs, and they're designed to be moved. The Manyatta is a traditional Maasai dwelling that is built by the women of the village. The house is made of a framework of wooden poles that are covered with mud and cow dung. The roof is low and covered with thatch. The Manyatta is a practical design for the nomadic Maasai lifestyle. In Australia, the Queenslander house is raised on stilts for airflow. The space underneath is used for parking and storage. The Queenslander is a traditional Australian house that was built in the subtropical climate of Queensland. The house is raised on timber stumps, which allows air to flow under the house and keep it cool. The house has wide verandas that provide shade and outdoor living space. The Queenslander is a quintessential Australian house. In New Zealand, the traditional var house of the Maori people was built of timber and thatch, with carvings that told stories of their ancestors. The whare was a communal dwelling that was used for sleeping and living. The framework was made of timber, and the walls were covered with thatch or bark. The carvings on the house were a form of storytelling. The whare is an important part of Maori culture. In the Pacific Islands, houses are built on stilts or raised platforms to protect against flooding and allow air to circulate. The houses are made of wood and thatch, with palm fronds used for the roof. The raised design protects the house from storm surges. The open sides allow the breeze to flow through. The Pacific Island house is a design that's perfectly adapted to the tropical climate. In Mexico, hacienda houses are built around a central courtyard, with thick walls and tile roofs. The hacienda was a large estate house that was built during the colonial period. The design is Spanish in origin and adapted to the Mexican climate. The thick walls keep the interior cool, and the tile roof reflects the sun. The hacienda is a symbol of Mexican history and culture. In Peru, houses in the Andes are built of stone with small windows. The design keeps the house warm in the cold mountain climate. The stone walls are thick and provide insulation. The small windows reduce heat loss. The roofs are often covered with thatch or tile. The Andean house is a design that's adapted to the high-altitude climate. In Chile, palafitos houses are built on stilts over the water. The design is common in the Chiloé archipelago. The palafitos are built on wooden piles that are driven into the seabed. The houses are connected by boardwalks. The palafitos are a unique feature of the Chilean coast. In Argentina, estancia houses are large ranch houses with wide verandas. The verandas provide shade and outdoor living space. The estancia is a traditional Argentine ranch house. The house is built of adobe or brick and has a tile roof. The wide verandas are a characteristic feature. The estancia is a symbol of Argentine rural life. In Bolivia, houses are built of adobe with flat roofs. The flat roof is used for drying crops. The adobe is made from local clay and straw. The flat roof is practical for the dry climate. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The adobe house is a common feature of the Bolivian countryside. In Colombia, palafito houses are built on stilts over the water in coastal areas. The palafitos are common in the Caribbean region of Colombia. The houses are built on wooden piles and are connected by boardwalks. The design protects the house from flooding. The palafito is a unique feature of the Colombian coast. In Venezuela, houses in the Andes are built of stone with tile roofs. The stone is from local quarries. The houses are designed to withstand the cold climate. The tile roof reflects the sun and keeps the interior cool. The Andean house is a common feature of the Venezuelan countryside. In Ecuador, houses in the Amazon are built of wood with thatched roofs. The wood is from the rainforest. The houses are raised on stilts to protect from flooding. The thatched roof provides insulation. The Amazon house is a design that's adapted to the tropical climate. In Uruguay, houses are built of brick with tiled roofs. The design is Spanish in origin. The brick is from local clay. The tiled roof reflects the sun and keeps the interior cool. The Uruguayan house is a common feature of the countryside. In Paraguay, houses are built of wood with palm thatch roofs. The palm thatch is from local trees. The houses are designed to be cool in the hot climate. The thatched roof provides insulation. The Paraguayan house is a common feature of the countryside. In the United States, houses in the Northeast are built of wood with pitched roofs. The pitched roof sheds snow. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be warm in the cold climate. The pitched roof is a practical design for the climate. In the Midwest, houses are built of brick with low-pitched roofs. The brick is from local clay. The low-pitched roof is designed for the hot summers. The house is designed to be cool in the summer. The Midwestern house is a common feature of the region. In the South, houses are built of wood with wide porches. The porches provide shade and outdoor living space. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The wide porches are a characteristic feature of southern houses. In the West, houses are built of stucco with tile roofs. The design is Spanish in origin. The stucco is a mixture of cement and sand. The tile roof reflects the sun and keeps the interior cool. The Western house is a common feature of the region. In Canada, houses in the east are built of wood with steep roofs. The steep roof sheds snow. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be warm in the cold climate. The steep roof is a practical design for the climate. In the West, houses are built of wood with low-pitched roofs. The low-pitched roof is designed for the mild climate. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be comfortable in the moderate climate. The Western Canadian house is a common feature of the region. In the Yukon, houses are built of logs with steep roofs. The logs are from local forests. The house is designed to be warm in the extreme cold. The steep roof sheds snow. The Yukon house is a practical design for the harsh climate. In Nunavut, houses are built of modern materials with flat roofs. The design is practical for the Arctic climate. The houses are built of wood and metal. The flat roof is designed for the dry climate. The Nunavut house is a modern adaptation to the Arctic. In the Caribbean, houses are built of concrete with tile roofs. The concrete is from local materials. The tile roof reflects the sun and keeps the interior cool. The house is designed to withstand hurricanes. The Caribbean house is a practical design for the tropical climate. In Jamaica, chattel houses are built of wood and can be moved. The design is practical for the island's economy. The chattel house is a traditional Jamaican house that is built on a wooden frame. The house can be lifted and moved to a new location. The chattel house is a unique feature of Jamaican architecture. In Cuba, houses are built of stone and have large windows. The large windows let in the breeze. The stone is from local quarries. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The Cuban house is a common feature of the city. In Puerto Rico, houses are built of concrete with flat roofs. The flat roof is used for outdoor living space. The concrete is from local materials. The house is designed to withstand hurricanes. The Puerto Rican house is a practical design for the tropical climate. In the Dominican Republic, houses are built of wood with zinc roofs. The zinc roof reflects the sun. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The Dominican house is a common feature of the countryside. In Haiti, houses are built of concrete with corrugated metal roofs. The metal roof reflects the sun. The concrete is from local materials. The house is designed to be durable. The Haitian house is a practical design for the environment. In the Bahamas, houses are built of wood with pastel colors. The colors reflect the sun and add charm. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The Bahamian house is a unique feature of the islands. In Bermuda, houses are built of stone with white roofs. The white roofs are used to catch rainwater. The stone is from local quarries. The roofs are designed to collect water. The Bermudian house is a unique design for the island. In the Cayman Islands, houses are built of concrete with tile roofs. The tile roof reflects the sun. The concrete is from local materials. The house is designed to withstand hurricanes. The Cayman house is a practical design for the tropical climate. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, houses are built of wood with pastel colors. The colors reflect the sun and add charm. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the hot climate. The Virgin Islands house is a common feature of the islands. In the Pacific Northwest, houses are built of wood with large windows. The large windows let in the light. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be comfortable in the mild climate. The Northwest house is a common feature of the region. In Alaska, houses are built of logs with steep roofs. The logs are from local forests. The house is designed to be warm in the cold climate. The steep roof sheds snow. The Alaska house is a practical design for the harsh climate. In Hawaii, houses are built of wood with open layouts. The open design allows the breeze to flow through. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Hawaii house is a unique feature of the islands. In Fiji, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs. The thatch is from local vegetation. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Fijian house is a common feature of the islands. In Samoa, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and open sides. The open sides allow the breeze to flow through. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Samoan house is a unique feature of the islands. In Tonga, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and raised floors. The raised floor protects from flooding. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Tongan house is a common feature of the islands. In Papua New Guinea, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and raised platforms. The raised platform protects from flooding. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Papua New Guinean house is a unique feature of the region. In the Solomon Islands, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and open sides. The open sides allow the breeze to flow through. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Solomon Islands house is a common feature of the islands. In Vanuatu, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and raised floors. The raised floor protects from flooding. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Vanuatu house is a unique feature of the islands. In Micronesia, houses are built of wood with thatched roofs and open sides. The open sides allow the breeze to flow through. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Micronesian house is a common feature of the islands. In the Marshall Islands, houses are built of concrete with corrugated metal roofs. The metal roof reflects the sun. The concrete is from local materials. The house is designed to be durable. The Marshall Islands house is a practical design for the environment. In Palau, houses are built of wood, with thatched roofs and raised floors. The raised floor protects from flooding. The wood is from local forests. The house is designed to be cool in the tropical climate. The Palauan house is a common feature of the islands. Every house, wherever it stands, is a response to its place, a conversation between builders and their environment, shaped by wind and rain and sun, and the materials that were close at hand. In some parts of the U.S., you can't paint your house any color you want. Homeowners associations have lists of approved colors. These associations, known as HOAs, have the power to regulate the exterior appearance of homes in a neighborhood. The approved colors are typically neutral and traditional, chosen to maintain a uniform look. Violating the color rules can result in fines or even legal action. The first HOAs were established in the 1960s, and they've grown in power and influence since then. The city of Carmel, California, requires that all commercial buildings be designed in a Spanish-style architecture, no modern or contemporary designs allowed. The city has strict design guidelines that aim to preserve its unique character. The Spanish-style architecture includes white stucco walls, red tile roofs, and arched doorways. The guidelines were established in the 1970s and are enforced by a design review board. Carmel's design rules are among the strictest in the United States. In the UK, there's a law that says you can't build a house on land where the soil is too acidic. The roots of trees can damage the foundation. The law is part of the building regulations that ensure the safety of structures. Acidic soil can corrode the foundation and cause structural problems. The soil is tested before construction begins, and if it's too acidic, the land is deemed unsuitable for building. The law was established in the 19th century to protect homeowners. In many U.S. states, a shed larger than 120 square feet requires a building permit, but smaller ones don't. The 120 square foot rule is a common threshold for requiring a permit. A shed that's 10 feet by 12 feet, for example, would be 120 square feet and would not require a permit. A shed that's 12 feet by 12 feet, however, would be 144 square feet and would require a permit. The permit ensures that the shed meets building codes. The R value of insulation in new homes is regulated by the Department of Energy. In the northern U.S., It's as high as R60 for attics. R value measures thermal resistance, and a higher R value means better insulation. The Department of Energy sets minimum R values for different regions of the country. In the northern US, where winters are cold, the minimum R value for attics is R49 to R60. In the southern US, the minimum R value is lower. The regulations are designed to improve energy efficiency. Some cities require accessible entrances for all new homes, even single-story houses, by making the thresholds no higher than 1/2 inch. The requirement is part of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which mandates accessibility in all new construction. The low threshold allows people with wheelchairs or walkers to enter the home easily. The requirement also applies to doorways, which must be at least 32 inches wide. The accessibility regulations are a significant factor in modern home design. In some regions, the floor area ratio limits how much of your lot you can build on. It's often as low as 0.2 in residential neighborhoods. The floor area ratio, or FAR, is the ratio of the building's floor area to the area of the lot. A FAR of 0.2 means that you can build a building with a floor area that's 20% of the lot area. The FAR is used to control density and preserve open space. The FAR is a common zoning tool in urban areas. Window area is regulated in some places. You need a certain ratio of window area to floor area for fire escape routes. The regulation ensures that there's enough window area for people to escape in case of a fire. The required ratio is typically 8% of the floor area. The windows must also be large enough for a person to fit through. The window area regulation is an important safety requirement. The setback is the distance from the property line to the house. It can be as large as 50 feet in some suburban lots. The setback is determined by local zoning laws and is designed to maintain privacy and reduce fire risk. The setback also helps to preserve the character of the neighborhood. A large setback can significantly reduce the buildable area of a lot. The setback is a common feature of suburban zoning. In Japan, you must obtain a buildable land certificate before buying land, confirming the soil is stable enough for construction. The certificate is issued by the local government and is based on a soil test. The test checks for soil stability, contamination, and other factors. The certificate is an important part of the real estate transaction. The requirement was established in the 1960s to prevent construction on unstable land. In Colorado, you can't build a house that's taller than the surrounding trees, a law from the 1970s meant to preserve mountain views. The law is part of the state's efforts to protect the natural landscape. The height limit is determined by the tallest tree within a certain radius of the building. The law applies to all new construction in certain areas. The law has been controversial but remains in effect. Some American towns have minimum house size laws. In one town, a house must be at least 1,000 square feet to be built. The law is designed to prevent the construction of small, low-value homes. The minimum size requirement ensures that all homes in the town meet a certain standard. The law has been criticized for making housing more expensive. The minimum house size law is a common feature in affluent suburbs. In Switzerland, you can't build a house with a flat roof in areas that get heavy snow, because the snow could accumulate and collapse the roof. The building code requires that roofs have a minimum pitch in snowy areas. The pitch allows the snow to slide off the roof. The regulation is based on the local snow load calculations. The Swiss building code is one of the strictest in the world. In some U.S. counties, you can't build a house taller than 35 feet, unless it's a commercial building, then it can be taller. The height limit is typically 35 feet in residential areas. The limit ensures that homes don't block the views of neighboring properties. The limit also helps to preserve the character of the neighborhood. The height limit is a common zoning tool. In the UK, a listed building can't be altered without special permission. Even changing the windows can be illegal. A listed building is a building that's considered historically significant. The listing protects the building from unauthorized alterations. The restrictions apply to the interior and exterior of the building. The listed building designation is a common feature in the UK. In California, new houses must be built with fire-resistant materials in fire-prone areas, and the exterior must be ignition-resistant. The requirement is part of the state's efforts to prevent wildfires. The ignition-resistant exterior includes materials like metal roofing and fire-resistant siding. The requirement also applies to the landscaping, with plants that are less flammable. The California Building Code is one of the strictest in the U.S. In some coastal areas in the U.S., you can't build a house within 100 feet of the high tide line, a law meant to protect the shoreline. The law is part of the Coastal Zone Management Act. The setback protects the shoreline from erosion and development. The law applies to all new construction in coastal areas. The coastal setback is a common feature of coastal zoning. In Italy, some towns have laws that require all houses to be painted a certain color, to preserve the town's historic character. The color requirements are part of the town's design guidelines. The colors are typically traditional and muted. The law is enforced by the local government. The color laws are common in historic towns in Italy. In Germany, you can't build a house that doesn't have a basement, unless the soil makes it impossible, because basements are considered standard. The basement is a standard feature of German homes. The basement provides storage space and is used for the heating system. The building code requires a basement in most cases. The German building code is one of the strictest in the world. In Australia, houses in certain areas must have bushfire protection, including fire shutters, water tanks, and exterior materials that don't burn. The requirement is part of the state's efforts to prevent bushfires. The bushfire protection measures are designed to protect the house from a bushfire. The requirement is based on the bushfire attack level. The Australian Building Code is one of the strictest in the world. In the US, the International Building Code is the standard for building regulations. It's updated every 3 years. The IBC is a model code that's adopted by most US states and local jurisdictions. The code covers all aspects of building construction, including structural design, fire safety, and accessibility. The code is developed by the International Code Council. The IBC is one of the most widely used building codes in the world. In the UK, the building regulations are the legal requirements for building construction. The regulations are part of the UK's planning system. The regulations cover all aspects of construction, including fire safety, accessibility, and energy efficiency. The regulations are enforced by the local planning authority. The building regulations are an important part of UK construction law. In Japan, the Building Standards Law is the legal requirement for building construction. The law was established in 1950 and has been updated regularly. The law covers all aspects of construction, including structural design, fire safety, and accessibility. The law is enforced by the local government. The Building Standards Law is an important part of Japanese construction law. In Canada, the National Building Code is the standard for building regulations. The code is developed by the National Research Council. The code covers all aspects of construction, including structural design, fire safety, and accessibility. The code is adopted by most Canadian provinces. The National Building Code is an important part of Canadian construction law. In the US, zoning laws are local regulations that control land use. The first zoning laws were established in the 1920s. Zoning laws regulate the use of land, the density of buildings, and the height of structures. Zoning laws are an important part of urban planning. The zoning laws are enforced by the local government. In the US, building permits are required for most construction projects. The first building permits were required in the 1900s. A building permit is a legal document that allows construction to proceed. The permit ensures that the construction meets the building code. The building permit is an important part of the construction process. In the US, planning permission is required for most construction projects. The first planning permissions were required in the 1900s. Planning permission is the legal approval for a construction project. The planning permission ensures that the project meets the zoning laws. The planning permission is an important part of the construction process. In the UK, planning permission is required for most construction projects. The first planning permissions were required in the 1900s. The planning permission is the legal approval for the construction project. The planning permission is an important part of the construction process. In Japan, building permission is required for most construction projects. The first building permissions were required in the 1950s. The building permission is the legal approval for a construction project. The building permission is an important part of the construction process. In the US, homeowners associations regulate the appearance of homes in a neighborhood. The first HOAs were established in the 1960s. The HOAs have the power to enforce design guidelines. The HOAs are a common feature of suburban neighborhoods. In the US, historic preservation laws protect historic buildings. The first historic preservation laws were established in the 1960s. The laws protect buildings that are considered historically significant. The laws restrict the alteration or demolition of protected buildings. The historic preservation laws are an important part of heritage protection. In the UK, conservation areas protect historic neighborhoods. The first conservation areas were established in the 1960s. The conservation areas restrict the alteration of buildings. The conservation areas are a common feature of UK planning. In the US, floodplain regulations restrict building in flood-prone areas. The first floodplain regulations were established in the 1960s. The regulations require buildings in floodplains to be elevated. The regulations are an important part of flood protection. In the UK, flood risk assessments are required for building in flood-prone areas. The first flood risk assessments were required in the 1990s. The assessment evaluates the risk of flooding. The assessment is an important part of the planning process. In Japan, earthquake regulations require buildings to be earthquake-resistant. The first earthquake regulations were established in the 1920s. The regulations require buildings to withstand a certain level of seismic activity. The regulations are an important part of Japanese building law. In the US, wind load regulations require buildings to withstand high winds. The first wind load regulations were established in the 1960s. The regulations are based on the local wind speed. The regulations are an important part of building code. In the UK, snow load regulations require roofs to withstand heavy snow. The first snow load regulations were established in the 1960s. The regulations are based on the local snowfall. The regulations are an important part of building code. In the US, energy codes regulate the energy efficiency of buildings. The first energy codes were established in the 1970s. The energy codes set minimum standards for insulation, windows, and heating systems. The energy codes are an important part of the building code. In the UK, Part L of the building regulations regulates energy efficiency. The first Part L regulations were established in the 1990s. Part L sets minimum standards for insulation and heating. Part L is an important part of the building regulations. In the US, green building codes promote sustainable construction. The first green building codes were established in the 2000s. The green building codes set standards for energy efficiency, water conservation, and materials. The green building codes are a growing trend in construction. In the UK, BREEAM is a sustainability rating system for buildings. The first BREEAM ratings were issued in the 1990s. BREEAM assesses the environmental impact of a building. BREEAM is a common feature of UK construction. The regulations continue to evolve, shaping the way houses are built and the way builders work. A complex web of rules that ensures the structure stays standing and the people inside stay safe. In the US, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing, including design features that discriminate against people with disabilities. The act was passed in 1968 and has been amended several times. The act requires that certain design features be included in new housing, such as accessible entrances and wider doorways. The Act is enforced by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Fair Housing Act is an important part of U.S. housing law. In the UK, the Equality Act requires that buildings be accessible to people with disabilities. The Act was passed in 2010 and replaced earlier legislation. The Act requires that reasonable adjustments be made to buildings to ensure accessibility. The Act is enforced by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. The Equality Act is an important part of UK law. In Japan, the Act on Promotion of Smooth Transportation requires that buildings be accessible to people with disabilities. The Act was passed in 1970 and has been updated regularly. The Act requires that buildings have accessible entrances, ramps, and elevators. The Act is enforced by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism. The Act is an important part of Japanese law. In Australia, the Disability Discrimination Act requires that buildings be accessible to people with disabilities. The Act was passed in 1992. The Act requires that buildings have accessible entrances and facilities. The Act is enforced by the Australian Human Rights Commission. The Disability Discrimination Act is an important part of Australian law. In the US, lead paint regulations require that lead paint be removed from homes built before 1978. The regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that lead paint be removed or encapsulated. The regulations are enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. The lead paint regulations are an important part of US health law. In the UK, lead paint regulations restrict the use of lead paint in homes. The regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations prohibit the use of lead paint in homes. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. The lead paint regulations are an important part of UK health law. In the US, asbestos regulations require that asbestos be removed from homes. The regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations require that asbestos be removed or encapsulated. The regulations are enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. The asbestos regulations are an important part of US health law. In the UK, asbestos regulations restrict the use of asbestos in homes. The regulations were established in the 1980s. The regulations prohibit the use of asbestos in homes. The regulations are enforced by the Health and Safety Executive. The asbestos regulations are an important part of UK health law. In the US, radon regulations require that homes be tested for radon. The regulations were established in the 1980s. The regulations require that homes be tested for radon and that high levels be mitigated. The regulations are enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. The radon regulations are an important part of US health law. In the UK, radon regulations require that homes in high-risk areas be tested for radon. The regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that homes be tested and that high levels be mitigated. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. The radon regulations are an important part of UK health law. In the US, mold regulations require that mold be removed from homes. The regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that mold be removed and the source of moisture be fixed. The regulations are enforced by the local health department. The mold regulations are an important part of US health law. In the UK, mold regulations require that mold be removed from homes. The regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that mold be removed and the source of moisture be fixed. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. The mold regulations are an important part of UK health law. In the US, property tax regulations determine how property taxes are assessed. The regulations vary by state and local jurisdiction. Property taxes are based on the assessed value of the property. The regulations determine how the value is assessed. The property tax regulations are an important part of local government. In the UK, council tax regulations determine how council tax is assessed. The council tax is based on the value of the property. The regulations determine how the value is assessed. The council tax is an important part of local government. In Japan, Property tax regulations determine how property taxes are assessed. The property tax is based on the value of the property. The regulations determine how the value is assessed. The property tax is an important part of local government. In the U.S., zoning boards make decisions about zoning variances. The first zoning boards were established in the 1920s. The zoning board hears appeals for variances from the zoning laws. The zoning board is an important part of local government. In the UK, planning committees make decisions about planning applications. The first planning committees were established in the 1900s. The planning committee hears applications for planning permission. The planning committee is an important part of local government. In the US, building inspectors enforce the building code. The first building inspectors were employed in the 1900s. The building inspector checks construction to ensure it meets the code. The building inspector is an important part of the construction process. In the UK, building control officers enforce the building regulations. The first building control officers were employed in the 1900s. The building control officer checks construction to ensure it meets the regulations. The building control officer is an important part of the construction process. In Japan, building officials enforce the building standards law. The first building officials were employed in the 1950s. The building official checks construction to ensure it meets the law. The building official is an important part of the construction process. In the U.S., historic preservation commissions regulate changes to historic buildings. The first historic preservation commissions were established in the 1960s. The commission reviews applications for changes to historic buildings. The commission is an important part of heritage protection. In the UK, conservation area committees regulate changes in conservation areas. The first conservation area committees were established in the 1960s. The committee reviews applications for changes in conservation areas. The committee is an important part of heritage protection. In the U.S., coastal commissions regulate development in coastal areas. The first coastal commissions were established in the 1970s. The commission reviews development proposals in coastal areas. The commission is an important part of coastal management. In the UK, flood risk authorities manage flood risk. The first flood risk authorities were established in the 1990s. The authority assesses flood risk and manages flood defenses. The authority is an important part of flood management. In the U.S., noise regulations limit the amount of noise from construction. The first noise regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations limit the hours and level of noise from construction. The regulations are enforced by the local government. In the UK, noise regulations limit the amount of noise from construction. The first noise regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations limit the hours and level of noise from construction. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. In the U.S., construction hours regulations limit the hours of construction. The first construction hours regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations limit construction to certain hours of the day. The regulations are enforced by the local government. In the UK, construction hours regulations limit the hours of construction. The first construction hours regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations limit construction to certain hours of the day. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. In the US, waste disposal regulations require that construction waste be disposed of properly. The first waste disposal regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations require that waste be recycled or disposed of in a landfill. The regulations are enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. In the UK, waste disposal regulations require that construction waste be disposed of properly. The first waste disposal regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that waste be recycled or disposed of in a landfill. The regulations are enforced by the Environment Agency. In the U.S., water use regulations regulate the use of water in construction. The first water use regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations limit the use of water during construction. The regulations are enforced by the local government. In the UK, water use regulations regulate the use of water in construction. The first water use regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations limit the use of water during construction. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. In the US, stormwater regulations regulate stormwater runoff from construction sites. The first stormwater regulations were established in the 1980s. The regulations require that stormwater be managed to prevent erosion and pollution. The regulations are enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. In the UK, stormwater regulations regulate stormwater runoff from construction sites. The first stormwater regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that stormwater be managed to prevent erosion and pollution. The regulations are enforced by the Environment Agency. In the US, erosion control regulations require that erosion be controlled on construction sites. The first erosion control regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations require that sediment be prevented from leaving the site. The regulations are enforced by the local government. In the UK, erosion control regulations require that erosion be controlled on construction sites. The first erosion control regulations were established in the 1990s. The regulations require that sediment be prevented from leaving the site. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. In the US, traffic regulations require that construction not disrupt traffic. The first traffic regulations were established in the 1900s. The regulations require that construction sites be properly signed and barricaded. The regulations are enforced by the local government. In the UK, traffic regulations require that construction not disrupt traffic. The first traffic regulations were established in the 1900s. The regulations require that construction sites be properly signed and barricaded. The regulations are enforced by the local authority. In the US, safety regulations require that construction sites be safe. The first safety regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations require that workers wear personal protective equipment and follow safety procedures. The regulations are enforced by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. In the UK, safety regulations require that construction sites be safe. The first safety regulations were established in the 1970s. The regulations require that workers wear personal protective equipment and follow safety procedures. The regulations are enforced by the Health and Safety Executive. In the US, license requirements require that builders be licensed. The first license requirements were established in the 1900s. The license ensures that builders have the necessary skills and knowledge. The license is issued by the state government. In the UK, certification requirements require that builders be certified. The first certification requirements were established in the 1900s. The certification ensures that builders have the necessary skills and knowledge. The certification is issued by a professional body. In the US, insurance requirements require that builders have insurance. The first insurance requirements were established in the 1900s. The insurance protects homeowners from liability if there is an accident or damage. The insurance is required by law in most states. In the UK, insurance requirements require that builders have insurance. The first insurance requirements were established in the 1900s. The insurance protects homeowners from liability if there is an accident or damage. The insurance is required by law in most cases. In the US, bonding requirements require that builders be bonded. The first bonding requirements were established in the 1900s. The bond protects homeowners if the builder fails to complete the work. The bond is required by law in most states. In the UK, bonding requirements require that builders be bonded. The first bonding requirements were established in the 1900s. The bond protects homeowners if the builder fails to complete the work. The bond is required by law in most cases. In the US, contract requirements require that construction contracts be in writing. The first contract requirements were established in the 1900s. The contract must specify the work to be done, the price, and the timeline. The contract is an important part of the construction process. In the UK, contract requirements require that construction contracts be in writing. The first contract requirements were established in the 1900s. The contract must specify the work to be done, the price, and the timeline. The contract is an important part of the construction process. In the US, warranty requirements require that builders provide a warranty. The first warranty requirements were established in the 1900s. The warranty covers defects in materials and workmanship. The warranty is an important part of the construction process. In the UK, warranty requirements require that builders provide a warranty. The first warranty requirements were established in the 1900s. The warranty covers defects in materials and workmanship. The warranty is an important part of the construction process. In the US, disclosure requirements require that sellers disclose defects in the property. The first disclosure requirements were established in the 1970s. The seller must disclose any known defects in the property. The disclosure is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the UK, disclosure requirements require that sellers disclose defects in the property. The first disclosure requirements were established in the 1990s. The seller must disclose any known defects in the property. The disclosure is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the US, inspection requirements require that homes be inspected before sale. The first inspection requirements were established in the 1970s. The inspection checks for defects in the home. The inspection is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the UK, survey requirements require that homes be surveyed before sale. The first survey requirements were established in the 1900s. The survey checks for defects in the home. The survey is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the US, title requirements require that the title to the property be clear. The first title requirements were established in the 1900s. The title search ensures that there are no liens or claims on the property. The title is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the UK, title requirements require that the title to the property be clear. The first title requirements were established in the 1900s. The title search ensures that there are no liens or claims on the property. The title is an important part of the real estate transaction. In the US, closing requirements require that the sale be finalized at a closing. The first closing requirements were established in the 1900s. The closing is the final step in the real estate transaction. The closing is an important part of the real estate process. In the UK, completion requirements require that the sale be finalized at completion. The first completion requirements were established in the 1900s. The completion is the final step in the real estate transaction. The completion is an important part of the real estate process. In the US, recording requirements require that the deed be recorded. The first recording requirements were established in the 1900s. The recording provides public notice of the ownership of the property. The recording is an important part of the real estate process. In the UK, registration requirements require that the property be registered. The first registration requirements were established in the 1900s. The registration provides public notice of the ownership of the property. The registration is an important part of the real estate process. In the US, tax requirements require that property taxes be paid. The first tax requirements were established in the 1900s. The property taxes are based on the assessed value of the property. The taxes are an important part of home ownership. In the UK, tax requirements require that council tax be paid. The first council tax requirements were established in the 1900s. The council tax is based on the value of the property. The council tax is an important part of home ownership. Building decay is the process of a building deteriorating over time. The first building decay was discovered in ancient times. Building decay is caused by weathering, moisture, and insects. The decay can be slowed with maintenance. Building decay is a natural part of a building's life. Building rot is the decay of wood in a building. The first building rot was discovered in ancient times. Building rot is caused by moisture and fungi. The rot can be prevented with proper waterproofing. Building rot is a common problem in older houses. Building pests are pests that damage buildings. The first building pests were discovered in ancient times. Building pests include termites, carpenter ants, and rodents. The pests can cause serious damage to a building. Building pests are a common problem for homeowners. Termite damage is damage caused by termites. The first termite damage was discovered in ancient times. Termites are insects that eat wood. The damage can be extensive and expensive to repair. Termite damage is a common problem in warm climates. Carpenter ant damage is damage caused by carpenter ants. The first carpenter ant damage was discovered in ancient times. Carpenter ants are insects that excavate wood to build their nests. The damage can be extensive and expensive to repair. Carpenter ant damage is a common problem in many areas. Building fire is a fire that damages a building. The first building fires were discovered in ancient times. Building fires can be caused by lightning, faulty wiring, or human error. The fire can cause extensive damage to the building. Building fires are a common hazard. Building flood is a flood that damages a building. The first building floods were discovered in ancient times. Building floods can be caused by heavy rain, broken pipes, or storm surges. The flood can cause extensive damage to the building. Building floods are a common hazard in flood-prone areas. Building hurricane is a hurricane that damages a building. The first building hurricanes were discovered in ancient times. Hurricanes can cause extensive damage to buildings. The hurricane can damage the roof, walls, and windows. Building hurricanes are a common hazard in coastal areas. Building tornado is a tornado that damages a building. The first building tornadoes were discovered in ancient times. Tornadoes can cause extensive damage to buildings. The tornado can damage the roof, walls, and windows. Building tornadoes are a common hazard in tornado-prone areas. Building earthquake is an earthquake that damages a building. The first building earthquakes were discovered in ancient times. Earthquakes can cause extensive damage to buildings. The earthquake can damage the foundation, walls, and roof. Building earthquakes are a common hazard in earthquake-prone areas. Building collapse is the collapse of a building. The first building collapses were discovered in ancient times. Building collapses can be caused by structural failure, earthquakes, or explosions. The collapse can cause serious injury or death. Building collapses are a rare but tragic event. Building renovation is the process of renovating a building. The first building renovations were done in ancient times. Building renovation includes updating the interior and exterior. Building renovation is a common way to extend the life of a building. Building restoration is the process of restoring a building to its original condition. The first building restorations were done in the 1800s. Building restoration includes repairing and replacing historic features. Building restoration is an important part of heritage protection. Building rehabilitation is the process of improving a building. The first building rehabilitations were done in the 1900s. Building rehabilitation includes upgrading the building's systems. Building rehabilitation is a common way to extend the life of a building. Building redevelopment is the process of redeveloping a site. The first building redevelopments were done in the 1900s. Building redevelopment includes demolishing the old building and building a new one. Building redevelopment is an important part of urban renewal. Building life cycle is the life of a building from construction to demolition. The first building life cycles were observed in ancient times. The building life cycle includes construction, use, and demolition. The building life cycle is an important concept in sustainable construction. Building sustainability is the practice of building in an environmentally responsible way. The first building sustainability practices were used in the 1990s. Building sustainability includes energy efficiency and the use of sustainable materials. Building sustainability is an important part of modern construction. Building recycling is the process of recycling building materials. The first building recycling was done in ancient times. Building recycling includes crushing concrete and recycling metal and wood. Building recycling is an important part of sustainable construction. Building salvage is the process of salvaging building materials. The first building salvage was done in ancient times. Building salvage includes reclaiming wood, brick, and fixtures. Building salvage is an important part of sustainable construction. Building waste is the waste that's generated during construction. The first building waste was generated in ancient times. Building waste includes wood, metal, and concrete. Building waste is a significant environmental problem. Building landfill is a landfill that accepts building waste. The first building landfills were used in the 1900s. Building landfills accept construction and demolition debris. Building landfills are a common way to dispose of building waste. Building debris is the debris that's generated during demolition. The first building debris was generated in ancient times. Building debris includes wood, metal, and concrete. Building debris is a significant environmental problem. Building recycling rate is the percentage of building materials that are recycled. The first building recycling rates were measured in the 1990s. The building recycling rate is increasing as more materials are recycled. The building recycling rate is an important measure of sustainability. Building energy efficiency is the energy efficiency of a building. The first building energy efficiency standards were established in the 1970s. Building energy efficiency reduces the carbon footprint of the building. Building energy efficiency is an important part of sustainable construction. Building carbon footprint is the carbon footprint of a building. The first building carbon footprints were measured in the 1990s. The building carbon footprint includes the energy used to build and operate the building. The building carbon footprint is an important measure of sustainability. Building green certification is a certification that verifies a building's sustainability. The first building green certifications were issued in the 1990s. Green certification includes LEED, BREEAM, and other rating systems. Building green certification is an important part of sustainable construction. Building demolition is the demolition of a building. The first building demolitions were done in ancient times. Building demolition can be done by hand, with machines, or with explosives. Building demolition is a common part of the building life cycle. Building reuse is the reuse of a building for a new purpose. The first building reuse was done in ancient times. Building reuse includes adaptive reuse and historic preservation. Building reuse is an important part of sustainable construction. Building adaptation is the adaptation of a building to a new use. The first building adaptations were done in ancient times. Building adaptation includes converting old factories into lofts. Building adaptation is an important part of sustainable construction. Building transformation is the transformation of a building. The first building transformations were done in ancient times. Building transformation includes completely changing the use and design of a building. Building transformation is a way to extend the life of a building. Building obsolescence is the process of a building becoming obsolete. The first building obsolescence was observed in ancient times. Building obsolescence can be caused by changes in technology or design. Building obsolescence is a factor in the decision to demolish or renovate. Building heritage is the heritage value of a building. The first building heritage was recognized in the 1800s. Building heritage is the historical or cultural significance of a building. Building heritage is an important factor in preservation decisions. Building memory is the memory of a building. The first building memories were created in ancient times. Building memory is the history and stories associated with a building. Building memory is an intangible aspect of a building's life. The final house is the one that's no longer standing, the one that has been demolished, deconstructed, or simply worn away by time. Every house, no matter how solidly built, has its quiet end. The wood rots, the concrete cracks, the nails rust, and eventually the structure returns to the earth. The soil settles back into place, the foundation is covered by grass, and the house becomes a memory. If you're still awake, congratulations. If you're not, you just heard a solid 3 hours of facts about houses. Maybe the most useless 3 hours you'll ever spend. But that's fine. That was the point. The last fact is this. A house settles into the ground at about 1 to 2 millimeters per year. Over decades, the structure sinks so slowly that no one notices. After 50 years, that's about the thickness of a coin. After 100 years, it's the width of a finger. And after enough time, the house returns to the earth it was built from, as if it had never been there at all. Every house has its quiet end. The foundation cracks, the roof sags, the walls lean. Eventually, the building is demolished, deconstructed, or simply left to decay. The materials are recycled or thrown away. The space is filled with new construction. The house becomes a memory. But tonight, the house you're in, the one with the ceiling you can't see and the walls you can't feel, is still standing, still holding its shape, still keeping the night out and the warmth in. Let it do its work. Let the walls hold. Let the roof keep the sky away. And let yourself drift off, knowing that even the most solid structure is just a temporary arrangement of materials, waiting quietly for its own slow return. So close your eyes now. The house will still be there in the morning. It's not going anywhere, neither are you. And that's the point of a house, isn't it? A place to stay, a place to rest, a place to be still. Good night.